Can we welcome all the dignitaries? Dr. Srivatsa Krishna ji. Can we have a good round of applause for him? Can we have hand mics, please? I request everyone to be seated on the dais. Dr. Srivatsa Krishna, Principal Secretary, Department of Personnel and Administrative Reforms, Government of Karnataka. And as we all know, he's a senior officer and he has done amazing work in e-governance. His contribution to the city of Hyderabad is magnificent. He's the first IAS officer in India's history to complete the Harvard Business School MBA. Can we have a good round of applause for him? Thank you so much, sir, for being here. And today we have the panelist, Shri Shrikanta Velamakani from Fractal.
He's not yet reached.
He's on his way. We have Shri Ashwin Damera from Eruditus. He's co-founder. We have Akrit Vaish, co-founder and CEO of Haptic. And we have Shri Siddharth Shah, co-founder and CEO of FarmEasy. I request, sir, to start the session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for inviting us to Mr. Sonic and my friend V. Srinivas. This session is about what we can learn from startups. And what is it? See, startups is something which is now sweeping India. We have 106 unicorns now, a combined valuation exceeding, I think now last count, 400 billion. Even though in this calendar year, the funding going into startups has gone down, we still have the third highest startups in the world after the US and China. So this session has been curated with some very special people. And what is unusual, which I know they don't want me to talk about this, but I should so that the audience is aware, each of them sitting in front of you is either a dollar billionaire personally. Their personal wealth is more than the budget of the AR departments of Karnataka. And I want to start by asking you to reflect on one point. Think about it. Is there anything left exclusively to government today? Srikant, please come, join us. Srikant Velamakani is the founder of Fractal, the latest unicorn last year. India's probably best known and most admired data analytics startups. And he works with almost all the major corporations in the world. Welcome, Srikant. So the question I want to start off with is, and this is the thesis behind having this panel here. Is there anything left exclusively for government today? In Mussoorie, where I was there last week from IAS officers saying policy. Please walk into any ministry or department of your choice. 3 out of the 4 places, you will stumble upon EY, KPMG, Deloitte, or some other consultant writing policy. Talk about electricity. Mumbai electricity is privatized, Calcutta is privatized, Delhi is privatized, most of the other cities are on that way. So the reason I'm putting this point out is we should think hard as officers and reflect, what is it that is left exclusively for government? Should there be what I call a public option at all? And what is the value of that public option? Having said that, let me get to my panel. These are 4 people who have done remarkable work in complementary sectors. Siddharth will talk about his the pharma network he's creating. I happened to see a presentation of his where he showed, while he has started off as a pharmacy retail chain, his idea is to completely disrupt healthcare as a whole. From the doctor down to every part of the value chain they are trying to capture, and he will talk about it. Ashwin, who I've had the privilege of knowing from my days at Harvard. Ashwin started off in McKinsey, very quickly realized that he wants to be an entrepreneur. And mind you, we are talking about late 2000s, where he came back and set up a startup in the travel space called Travel Guru, and then went on to create Eruditus. Eruditus today works with some of the topmost universities in the world. He will talk more about it. I think all the major universities which UGC wants to now bring to India with the new bill are already working with him. And he's now trying to help them bring their campuses to India. On my right, I have Akrit. Akrit started Haptic. So during COVID, prior and after, the WhatsApp messages you saw were all partly done thanks to the benevolence of Haptic. Haptic partnered with Meti and sent out public service messages, and he will talk more about how to use WhatsApp and what his business model is. He sold it now to Reliance, but still the startup that he begun was quite revolutionary and did a lot of interesting stuff. Last but not the least, Shrikant. Shrikant runs Fractal. He's from Ahmedabad, one of the most humble, down-to-earth people I've known. At the time of COVID, I reached out to him. I said, state governments need dashboards to track COVID contact tracing, bring them into a place which would be useful for government and policy makers to act upon. And Shrikant, in no time, started working with multiple state governments and produced a product which is now being recognized nationally. Some of the states have won national e-governance awards based on it. And he did it, needless to say, all of it was done by him pro bono. And he works with a number of companies, including Google, Microsoft, etc. globally. They're a unicorn, and now probably going to go for an IPO in the next few years. So let me start with Shrikant. I want each of them first to talk a little bit about their companies. What is it that they do? And then move on to, are there lessons from the startup world or their respective startups which might be applicable to government? There may be some which are not applicable to government at all, but there could well be some which are applicable to government from which we can all learn from. Over to you, Shrikant.
About Fractal?
About Fractal and your experience of working with government.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Srivatsa. So Fractal is an AI firm. We serve some of the largest companies on the planet, most of them at least 10 billion in revenue. And we are present, we have about 5,000 people around the world, including 80% of them being in India with a bunch of other countries. From the Municipal Commissioner of Mumbai, and you know, I had actually reached out to part of his team to say that maybe we could help. And then on March 21st, I got this call, and then we got started and we did some really, really good work. 50 people from Fractal were involved, working 16 to 18 hours a day in the first few weeks of the pandemic, setting up the infrastructure for tracking. Firstly, we want to track all the arrivals. I mean, literally within an hour of having spoken with the municipal commissioner, we had Mumbai police, we had a bunch of other teams that came in. We got access to some of the data around arrivals into Mumbai, tracking and tracing arrivals, and then figuring out where the disease is spreading. Then it went on to figuring out what are the kinds of areas within the city, zones and wards where the disease is likely to spread, and therefore what kind of analysis do we have to do, what kind of protection measures do we have to put in place. And from there it went on to figuring out the deaths. There were a number of people dying. There were a panel of 10 doctors in Mumbai who were handling the pandemic, so we could brief them on the analysis of deaths, what kind of people are dying and what kind of medical conditions are increasing overall mortality in COVID cases. So these were very, very effective because these were helped the city in tackling the pandemic. Srivatsa already mentioned, I had a chat with Srivatsa, and then we got introduced to Karnataka and the state of Telangana, and we were able to help in these situations. As I was thinking about this session, Srivatsa, I was reflecting on the work that we've been doing with the government. In fact, that body of work is really large. Starting with working with around demonetization, figuring out who were the people who were deposited cash and tracking some of the suspicious activities there. We did some really good work there. Then working with Ministry of Family and Child Welfare around around overall nutrition for mothers and their children, to working with Umang. One of our companies is SenseForth, which is a conversational AI leader, and we actually do we actually power the Umang platform, where there's a lot of conversational AI in place. So there's a whole host of work that we have done over the years. I was fortunate to be part of the AI Task Force for Defense for India, so also worked with all the armed forces in setting up the AI strategy for India, especially for defense. And as part of that, also got to work a little bit with Navy around predictive maintenance for the fleet, as well as with the Army around satellite images and tracking the data. So there's actually a lot of work. It appears that there's a tremendous amount of role for AI to affect the country and to help the country progress further. And I've been fortunate to be part of some of these conversations and have had the opportunity to work. So it is a meaningful part of my time, though it's not a meaningful part of our revenue. So with that.
No, one of the things which he's not allowed to talk about, but I can just share with this audience, because it's a largely government audience. The Prime Minister's office reached out to them and they built the first tracking system for black money. And if you recall, in the first few years of the Modi government, they were every few days, there were top 10 jewelers rated, top 10 real estate people rated, top 10 XYZ rated. All the data was given by Fractal. And which was, I think, phenomenal work done by them at very short notice, which laid the foundation for what is called Project Insight. Project Insight is the database of the Income Tax Department today. If you haven't seen, they don't share it easily, but if you get a chance, please try to see it. It's absolutely stupendous. And the early sort of versions of it was thanks to the work done by Srikant. Let me move to the other side and I'll come back for an exchange. Siddharth, your thoughts on what led to Farm Easy becoming where it is, and what is your vision for impacting healthcare in the country?
So a little bit about Farm Easy. I think a lot of you might be aware of the consumer facing side of our platform, Farm Easy, which is a digital platform that allows you to get 4 things which are all part of outpatient healthcare. 1, information, so store your medical records securely and safely. Number 2, get a consultation, which is speak to a doctor of your choice in under 30 minutes. Number 3, diagnostics. We now run the largest diagnostic lab of the country after our acquisition of ThyroCare. We do about 110 million diagnostic tests, which is amongst the top 5 diagnostic volumes anywhere in the world and the largest in the country. And number 4, we deliver medicines to doctors, retailers, hospitals and patients, often within 2 to 3 hours in about 99% of India's zip codes. And today we buy roughly 5% of all medicines sold in India.
99% of India's zip codes, you can get medicines in 3 to 5 hours?
Not all of them. We can deliver in 99% of India's zip codes, but typically you can say that about 78% of the country's population can get a medicine delivered within 12 hours using our network.
It's amazing. I remember seeing your presentation at one of the analysts, I think it was at Kotak, where you spoke about the next steps in this. Beyond retail, how do you plan to disrupt primary healthcare? Can you talk a little bit about that?
So the idea is that information or medical information consulting, so I mean think of it like a consumer. If I'm unwell, I'll first seek information, then I will try and go to a doctor. The doctor will prescribe a test, and after that he'll give me a course of treatment, which is often medicines and other therapies. The idea is to bring all these 4 on a single platform and make the platform and the person delivering the ultimate care independent of each other. What that means is, in India, for example, all our insurance, barring a few government schemes, covers only inpatient health, right? So if I'm unwell, I want to go to see a doctor, I want to take medicines and take care of my health, insurance will not pay me. But if I don't take care of my health, God forbid, and I come with a heart attack 10 years later, insurance will fully take care of my bypass surgery and angioplasty. So our insurance waits for a catastrophe to happen and then pays you, rather than saying that I will pay you along the way so that you don't land up with a catastrophe. That is because our insurance ecosystem is not fully integrated in primary healthcare. There are multiple points of failure. Today, unfortunately, I can walk into any pharmacy and get a medicine without a prescription. I can get a medicine without a bill. Sometimes I can get a bill without a medicine. There is no way to correlate what happens between the consumer and who is the end buyer. However, we don't have to now invest billions and trillions of dollars like the West to recreate the physical infrastructure. I think with technology, you can put any good healthcare technology on top of the existing healthcare infrastructure, almost like the way I would say Ayushman Bharat has done, which is put a policy framework, right? And the government is saying, I am happy to be the payer, I am happy to provide the policy, but the end delivery is by the existing network. I think similarly what we are trying to do in outpatient healthcare, whether you want to store your medical records, and today about 1.5 crore Indians' medical records are on our platform, or you want a medical consultation, we do roughly 25,000 medical consultations a day. A day, 25,000 medical consultations a day. Roughly 11 crore diagnostic tests a year. And like I said, roughly 5% of India's medicines. We are trying to put all of this on one platform so that through data and technology, you can make enough and more sense out of the process. And again, the reason we can deliver all of these services or products in 99% of India's PIN code is because we don't own a single pharmacy. We are not trying to compete with an existing pharmacy. We are actually going and digitizing the pharmacy. We own the backend. So when you place an order as a consumer, the order actually goes to your nearest pharmacy. The problem with the near pharmacy is typically they don't have all the inventory or they don't have all the products, which we procure at the back end and give it to them. So it's a two-stage process. From our warehouse, it reaches your nearby pharmacy, and the nearby pharmacy acts as the last point of or last mile delivery and comes to you. And we are trying to recreate this across all spheres of outpatient healthcare.
Okay, I'll come back to you on the issues and challenges. After healthcare, let's get to education. Ashwin, what was your vision behind Eruditus? And where do you see it heading? I know what you're doing, but for the sake of the audience, why don't you tell them about where you see, especially in the context of the new UGC bill, do you see Eruditus being a platform for bringing these foreign universities online, which you're already doing, or do you see them coming in physically? And why don't you talk a little bit about your journey?
So we started about 12 years back, and our vision at that time really was that, getting into high quality institutions was very difficult. In fact, most institutions build a brand for themselves by rejecting people. So if you accept only 1% and reject 99%, you're considered a great institution. And that honestly didn't seem like how education should be. There are very few universities who say, look, we accept 99% and make them the 1% through our education, right? And so we said, look, how do we democratize education? How do we improve access for all? And if I think about today, this is even more relevant to India because we all spend a lot of time talking about the demographic dividend, right? We have, I think, 600 million Indians under the age of 25. But if they don't get educated, how are they going to get jobs? By the way, even if they get educated, many won't get jobs. But imagine if they don't get educated, what is the chance that they would get jobs? And to put that in some numbers, and Srivatsa, you know this, I like numbers. In India today, our gross enrollment ratio is 27%, maybe 27 to 30. The numbers are a little fudgy. What that means is that people who finish high school, only 27% of them go to college. By the way, the number of Indians who are in high school itself is a very small number, but of that number, 27% are going to college. In the US, that number is 80%. In UK, it's 60%. But maybe a better example is China. That number is 40%. That 27% in India today is 40 million students. All right? And if in the next 10 years to get the demographic dividend that we want 27% to go to 40%. Okay, now this is math. It's a 50% increase. It's 20 million, which is 2 crore new seats we need in our colleges. Otherwise, we will have perhaps a demographic curse 30 years from now. But I like to be positive. I like to believe that we will have the demographic dividend given that the economy is going to grow as it is. So the decision for policymakers, and this is where, for example, you asked what was our vision, is to say, look, how can we play a role in making some of this happen? Now, we can't help figure out 20 million, but can we do 1 million? This year, we will touch about 2.5 lakh students. Now, we are a platform like how Siddharth is. We are not a university, we are not a college. But what we do is to enable universities and colleges to build capacity to either go online or to do hybrid programs. So in India, we work with the IITs, the IIMs, many private institutions. Globally, we work with the Harvards, the MITs, the Cambridges, Berkeley, Stanford, etc. And I think there's a massive opportunity for us to really expand skilling. If I come back to that 20 million number, it's impossible for this country to create 20 million physical seats in colleges, brick and mortar colleges. That will be one part of the strategy. There will be other parts. For example, online.
Why do you say impossible? Just explain a little more on that.
If in like 70 plus years, we have created 40 million brick and mortar, in the next 10 years to create 20 million seats. I mean, just given the time you get approval, time you acquire land, you have to hire faculty, etc. It's much easier, for example, to the existing institutions to go online or hybrid and expand capacity and attract more students, right? It's also possible. And so I'll say this in maybe a positive way, which is I believe in the last few years, definitely the government has taken some positive steps to attract, more, I would say, capacity building in the space. So for example, about 4 or 5 years back, it was very unclear who can offer an online course. There was DEC, which is distance education. There was AICT. There was UGC. There was state governments, etc. At least in the last few years, maybe because of COVID, maybe even otherwise, we've got clarity. If you're a top 100 ranked institute, if you're NAC some ranking, what universities really need is just clarity. Even today, there are some regulations which are ambiguous, which prevents people from doing stuff. So when we talk to universities and say, hey, can you do this? Whether it's a degree program certificate, they're like, yeah, but we don't know whether UGC will approve. So the only thing I would say in terms of, you asked, how can we perhaps accelerate what we do and what, the university is, we have policies, we just need clarity.
Okay, let me come to you, Akrit. You've had so first we had AI and analytics in healthcare, education, and now I move to the man who is how should I describe Haptik? There's a messenger and the medium. Can I say he's the medium? He's the medium which delivers a lot of it. And now, of course, the vision is far larger than that. I read the one-pager on you, full page on you in the Mint, where you explained it very well. Why don't you, for the audience, start by telling them about Haptik and what the vision was when you originally started it, and has the vision changed in any way after you become a part of the Reliance Group?
Thanks, Shivatsa, for having us over here. So Haptik is essentially a conversational messaging company. We power brands and businesses of all types and sizes to engage with their consumers over messaging platforms, which include website, web chat, mobile chat, and now increasingly over the last 3 or 4 years, WhatsApp. We power we do about 150, 160 million conversations a month. This year we'll clock about 2.5 billion conversations in a year, and we'll touch about 350 million end consumers. So I like to think that's about 5% of the world's population, or about 20% of India.
2.5 billion
conversations this year. You asked about what we started and how we moved along. So when we started out our business, we originally intended to build a consumer company. So we actually had our own app, which used to be called the Haptik Personal Assistant app. I see a lot of people nodding over here because at some point a lot of people used it for lots of things. Eventually we realized that to achieve our mission, it was better to enable this for businesses and brands, because that was the greater pain point rather than consumers directly. So that's when we did a classic pivot from moving from a B2C company to a B2B software company. In about 2018 is when we made that shift. And then, as Shivat said, a few months later, Reliance Jio came in and acquired a majority shareholding in our company. Our business today is essentially broken into 2 main parts. One is what we like to call the enterprise business. We operate in 10 countries. We have customers from all over the world. And then the second is our SMB business, where we are now enabling every merchant to build their own WhatsApp interface with the end consumer, where we just crossed about 10,000 merchants and are the largest app in India. One of there's 2 things that I want to talk about that we have seen in the last 2 years, which we think can genuinely transform the way people do business in this country. The first was similar to, I think, when Srikanth got a call on 21st March. I think they were calling everybody that day because even I got a call around the same time saying that, hey, look, can you enable some sort of a helpline on WhatsApp? If you remember, this was 21st March 2020. We had no idea what this coronavirus thing was. It was before the first wave, before lockdown. We had no idea what coronavirus meant. We were that time struggling and figuring out what are the symptoms, how do you get tested. So what we did was we built a WhatsApp helpline where anybody in the country could send a message saying that, hey, I need some help with COVID. How do I know if I have COVID? Where do I get tested? Somebody detected COVID in my family. Will I die? You know, all types of things. We built it, I think, in a span of 10 days. And then 10 days later, Honorable Prime Minister Shri Modi, he launched it in one of his addresses. And within 4 weeks, we had about 60 million citizens use that helpline for all types of questions. It also provided a great data source to feed back to the government of what people are actually asking about. What are their biggest concerns? You know, there were so many questions around. I think the biggest surprise for us was that people just didn't know what COVID was at that time. So the largest questions was really like, will I die if I have COVID? You know, like what will happen to me if I get COVID? A year later, after that, we launched the second phase of the project, which was you could end-to-end book vaccination appointments through the same WhatsApp helpline. I think in 3 days, we scheduled something like 4 million appointments. And at one point, there were more appointments being done through the WhatsApp helpline than through the app itself. So, you know, these were a couple of things for us to, learn that platforms, and I'm using WhatsApp as an example here, but these platforms are so friction-free. They don't require you to download potentially another app. They don't require you to learn something more. I think I read somewhere that WhatsApp today is used more than all your apps on your phone combined, including the phone call itself. Wow. So, you know, we learned that these can become really mediums to bring the next 300-400 million people online. And we saw this same thing with another project we launched last year, which was again very popular, which was the end-to-end enablement of shopping of groceries through JioMart on WhatsApp. Which again became a very popular offering where you can go inside WhatsApp, you can simply say what groceries you want to buy, and there again we're seeing similar numbers. So, you know, we think that platforms like these, which have mass reach beyond half the population, I think now is enabled, can have a massive impact as we think about e-governance and, you know, just digital services.
Okay, given that the audience here has government people, I see at least one prominent VC sitting here who's probably here to write a check for one of you four. A number of young IAS officers online. So I hope you'll be frank and candid, because the idea is to learn. I want to ask each of you two things. One, and let's start with you, Akrit, in this case. All of you have dealt with government in some point or the other, either while rolling out your apps, or while setting up the COVID dashboard, or while having to deal with, in the healthcare sector. I want each of you to tell us about one pain point you experience, which perhaps is something which government can rethink and do away with, if it's possible, and one thing where you feel government is actually doing something well and could do more of it. When do we start with it?
How much time do I have? I'm just kidding.
A lot of time, don't worry.
No, I think, I think we are very, I'll start with the reverse. I think we are very generous with our I think we are very generous with our pain points and very reserved with our compliments. So let's start reverse. Let's start about what we think has been done, is done well. Look, I think for me, the biggest thing that has created a wave of great products and entrepreneurship in this country has been the centralized payments infrastructure. I think it's obvious, but just the work that NPCI has done, enabling the UPI framework and everything around it. I think it's unprecedented, and the India Stack, no other government has done it. I think all of us, in fact, we joke about this as peers and founders sometimes. We travel to the US these days and we struggle to make payments. It's so much effort taking out a credit card and doing all of that.
And paying the MDR.
And paying the MDR as merchants.
Which is huge, by the way. Any of you using your credit cards, the MDR kills you more than the payment.
Yeah, and I know that there is now account aggregator coming up, which is even going to be sort of a bigger initiative. And when I let sort of somebody and Siddharth talk about this, but I believe there's a lot of work around healthcare as a single identification going on. So I think this whole idea of having single identity for your core services across the board, I think is just unprecedented and something we all greatly should be proud of, and makes all our lives as founders a lot easier as well. I think the one pain point, I feel like in general, a lot of our businesses, particularly in B2B spaces, even B2C for that matter, end up being fairly global in nature, which involves essentially, for the lack of better words, a fair degree of movement of capital between countries. I think one pain point that I definitely struggle with or come across more and more is that, and the intents are all noble and positive, is that, you know, there is a lot of friction in cross-border movement of capital.
This is due to government policy or?
Yeah, specifically outwards, out of the country. I think when it comes to setting up and
LRS.
Yeah, I think LRS, ODI, or if you look at any one of those, I think those are very tactical. I don't want to become prescriptive. I think generally, right, for companies who have a global mandate to have very easy operating and tax efficient structures between various countries and India, where most of us are based, I think there's a lot of work to be done there. I think there is, that's an area that I think a lot of us face constant friction with, of how do you make this seamless to be within the rule of law and tax efficient, and more importantly, do it at some degree of pace. It takes a lot of time.
Okay. Let's go by the reverse way. Ashwin, with you. Same thing, one good thing and one not so.
Yeah, actually, many good things in the education space. I'll say, I think COVID has maybe nudged the government to act in a faster way than they normally do. Take, for example, this thing around the Institute of Eminence, right? So if you're one of those 12 institutes, you can open a campus where you want. You can have your own recruitment of faculty, standards, etc. So that's really giving more freedom to institutions to do what they want. This idea that anybody who is in the NIRF, the National Top 100 ranking, you can offer online courses, online degrees. You know, IIT Madras offered an online, I think, BS, Bachelor's in Data Science. And the first day they got 8,000 applications and their server unfortunately is crashed. But that is more than like 150 times of what they can take in their classroom. So these are Indians who, you know, data is obviously the new fuel in some sense, who want to go to the best institutions. Imagine how long it will take to set up a campus that can actually teach 8,000 students with the quality of IIT Madras. And so just allowing this freedom for these institutions to set up. Now this new thing around foreign institutions coming here, we'll see what form and shape. So the government, I think, Srivatsa, my view personally, has done a lot. Now, where I feel that, and this maybe is a long term, and maybe it's only a dream that I have, is...
Candid, don't be politically correct.
Okay, so, I mean, I'll say what I have to say and you guys can judge this, which is, I don't know why in this country we have this view that education should be not for profit. You should not make money on education. And the argument usually given, and the reason I say why I don't agree with this is, today our investment in education as a country is 3% of GDP. Okay, and we all will agree that it is underinvested, right? You take global benchmarks, it's 5%. That difference of 2%, by the way, on a 5 trillion economy, I'm looking a little forward, is $100 billion, 8 lakh crore rupees per year. Under investment. So unless all of you are going to invest in education, then at least let the private sector invest in education. Now the challenge, I'll tell you, is, oh, but education is a necessity, so therefore it should be not for profit. And here's my argument. This bottle of water, I think, is more essential for us to live. But this company makes money. You go to a hospital, you were talking about hospitals, etc. Those hospitals in India are allowed to make money. If you want, you know, during COVID, a lot of us needed oxygen. And if without that we'll die. But those companies can make money. But for some reason in India, education companies have to be trust, can't make money, or government. Now the only reason I'm saying this again, and this is my honest view, is we need, as an Indian, we need to see 20 million seats in the next 10 years for this country's youth to get a good education and a good chance at a prosperous life. So we need that investment and anything that can help us do that. So, you know, make it, allow private sector to participate, have guardrails, and look, the students in this country are very smart. I mean, in Maharashtra, by the way, it's true in Tamil Nadu, any part of the country, you will find engineering colleges which are subpar that will have empty seats. And you will have 5 lakh people applying to IITs, knowing fully well that 99% won't get in. So the consumer, the student also has a discrimination to figure out. So that's one area where maybe even moving baby steps in that direction can be very beneficial to the country.
I'll tell you a point to what you said about education being free versus being should be privately allowed. It is now privately allowed. There's no reason why. I don't think there's an effective regulator who are able to sort of separate the wheat from the chaff. You have almost every politician in this country worth his salt, having either an engineering college or a medical college. If he's not worth his salt, he won't have it, but he's aspiring to get that. And the quality there is abysmal. Quality only in some of the places. I'm the IAS officer, don't worry, you don't have to get so worried. I am saying this in full presence of the media and the people here. What we need is a regulator. Let me come back to one more thing. India's tax to GDP ratio is 11%. US tax to GDP ratio is 45%. When you go for any union budget government meetings, every industrialist worth his salt, including the topmost one whom I don't want to name here, will say, yes, we want Netherlands like healthcare, we want US like highways, but tax usko karna, mujhe mat karna. So if you're unwilling to pay a higher tax at a tax to GDP ratio of 11%, where India is today, how do you expect government to provide world-class healthcare, world-class highways, world-class universities with 11% tax to GDP ratio? It can't happen.
Yeah, also, but on the same thing on the private sector, right? Yes, they are allowed, but it's only on a non-profit mode. So what happens, many rich conglomerates who also want to do some good for society, many of them have good intentions, will do it. But private capital will not come.
Right.
And if you need the amount of private capital, we need to take our education to the next level. That's my point.
If I were to ask you, what is the one policy change which will make private capital come in? What do you think that should be? Can you think of it offhand?
Yeah, I think, allow for education to be run as not only by a charitable trust, as a company, for-profit company. Have guardrails. You can have guardrails saying, look, you cannot have a profit of more than this. Let them pay tax. Let them come under the same NAAC, NIRF ranking regulations. Every regulation that applies to any institution should apply to these institutions also, but let it be for-profit. And let the private capital come in and you can judge it. You can allow a little bit, allow 20 institutions, see how they perform 3 years, expand it, etc. But that's really...
Part of the reason behind the institutions of eminence was that.
But they're all still charitable trusts.
They are still charitable trusts. That's true. Okay, Siddharth, what about you? One good thing in your interactions with government, one thing you think which can change?
So I think the great thing that is happening on top of the India stack is also going to be around the National Digital Health Mission, right? We strongly believe that it has the potential to change the health outcomes for everybody, right? Not just the urban, not just the rural, not just the rich, not just the poor. It has implications for everybody. I think we've created a very good framework. Right now, there are still teething execution issues, but the moment that expands, and I truly believe that it will move from inpatient to ideally primary and outpatient healthcare, where again, I think the role of the government will be that of creating a policy, the role of being a payer, but not actually the provider. I think the distinction between allowing private parties at extremely low cost and low margins to do or provide the products and the services, where the government acts as the adjudicator of rates, of policies, etc., will truly open up the availability and access of healthcare, right? Because like I said, we've done that in inpatient care, where now you can actually walk into a private hospital and basis your Ayushman Bharat card, the hospital will get paid and you get access to service from those, right? So you don't have to recreate the entire infrastructure for delivery of service, right? And I can go on and on about how other digital areas will come, but I think this is one single biggest area where, at least in healthcare, there is a massive scope, and as you move from hospitals to outpatient, the number of people affected will not just be people who are ill, but people who are also looking to be well, which I think is going to be a very large area of focus. I think one grievance, if I may say so, and maybe it's only related to us, so maybe the fault lies at our end, is that we did a very small project once in 2017 with a certain state government, and I don't want to take names, and we had to receive a very small sum of 4 crore rupees. Till date, I'm still running behind that, and we've decided that we are very happy to work with the government on a pro bono basis. So even we were called in fact, our EMR solutions were used at the Kasturba hospital for storing data and tracking patients. We used the BMC helpline, right? While Haptic was powering the chat helpline, the on-call helpline was actually run by our doctors at the back end, right? And we did all of that pro bono. So we've decided that we are more than happy to work with the government, but only on a pro bono basis. I dread that my money will get stuck for 6 or 7 years and I'll never get it. So we just worry about, doing business with the government.
I assure you here, I'll do my utmost to get it out of whichever government it is.
Thank you.
Okay, let me move to Shrikant. Shrikant has done a lot of work with government. Shrikant, the good things, and be as candid as usually are and talk about the not so good things also.
So firstly, the good things. I've been part of the NASSCOM Executive Council for the last many years, and what I've seen, the interaction between the government and NASSCOM, for example, in trying to truly understand what the industry wants and consulting with the industry in everything and in anything major, actually has been game-changing. I haven't seen something like that earlier, to see that the government really does care about what the industry thinks and actually wants to get their opinion and actually actively make those changes in various kinds of policies that have been launched in the last 3-4 years. It's actually quite game-changing, because that's the right direction of travel. So I think that's a really good thing. As far as things that can improve, firstly, let me say that I believe that the two levers that will change the country in the next 50 years, apart from infrastructure, I think where the government is already investing, I think is our education and entrepreneurship. Those are the two long-term levers, in my opinion, for any country. And as far as education is concerned, yes, we have a lot of players in the higher education segment. But if you think of primary education, that's where I think I think as Ashwin was probably briefly alluding to, people are dropping off every year, not just after high school, but even every year from grade 1 to 12. I think making sure that everyone in the country is educated up to that level, I think government needs to do a lot more than it is doing right now. As far as entrepreneurship is concerned, specifically, I have great passion for AI, given how significant it's going to be for the country. And, I think I was watching some of the Davos conversations with the ministers and Chandra also, who are all talking about AI transition and AI, big changes coming because of AI. What we haven't done in India is to prepare and to facilitate the growth of AI within the country. We already are producing we're the third largest number of papers in India. Third largest number of papers in the world in AI are produced by Indian people, and 1 in 3 people in the world of AI is an Indian, wherever they may be living. But what we have to do, I believe, is train 4 to 5 million people on the basics of data literacy. That is one. 2, we must encourage entrepreneurs in the world of AI. So what if the government says, I have $1 billion of use cases every year that I will spend on just companies that are less than 100 crores in size, let's say. So smaller companies, because these companies have an incredibly hard time working with the government. Even for someone like us, when we did the work after demonetization, Srivatsa, you were briefly alluding to that, we were told after doing the initial work that you have to go become a subcontractor to one of the larger vendors, again, not getting into names, and work with them, but we can't directly contract with you because of XYZ reasons, even though they had already directly contracted with us earlier. So that was, it's impossible to have to work with.
Is in our procurement systems.
Yes.
And I tried this when I was IT e-governance secretary of Karnataka, and I failed in this. How do we carve out at least 5% or 10% of our procurement budget only for startups? Are there problems which startups can solve better than what the established? Look at it. We give contracts to Wipro, TCS, Infosys, PwC, EY. Sab bhare pade hamare offices.
And they have,
but we don't give it to a Fractal. We won't give it to a Haptic. Can we make a policy change where we can have 5% of procurement done on I'm not saying give it to no tender basis, but carve out that 5% only for startups.
So the Fractal is now too big to enter into
yes,
this
now you
scheme.
are.
But I'm just saying that for the companies that are sub 100 crores, like 10 million, 5 million, $10 million companies, they really do not have the infrastructure to go around and wait for years and years and then wait for another 2 years to collect the money, etc.
told us about his...
Exactly. So what we need there is a much easier way. For example, I'm on the board of Idea Forge, which is one of India's largest drone manufacturers. And just to make sure that it is easy they are the specialist drone provider, but is it easy for them to sell drones to various parts of the government that actually need the drones? Yeah, it's not that easy. So how can we So I'm coming back to the AI topic, right? First is educate 4 to 5 million people, train them on AI. 2, spend $1 billion on use cases every year. It's not a large sum of money, it's 8,000 crores. But many companies will become really big because government has the data and the problem sets that these small companies can address, small AI companies can address. The third thing I would say is also invest in AI companies or call them deep tech companies. So partner with, let's say, the private equity or this pre-Series A, Series A investors that are there and say that, look, I'm going to co-invest with you in industries that I may have relevance for. For example, it could be on drones, as an example. This is a strategic area of interest for India. So can the government invest in some of the drone tech companies? So in case of AI and deep tech, I would say train, bring use cases and invest $1 billion every year in companies that are doing this stuff.
Traditionally, you're talking about governments investing in startups of national importance. Traditionally, government by definition is risk averse. The minute you ask a civil servant to take risk and he puts money, say, in a startup, let's say in IdeaForge, and tomorrow IdeaForge falls, then he will have an inquiry chasing him for the rest of the 15 years of his career, ki usme kyun dala, isme kyun nahi dala. If IdeaForge succeeds and it becomes a unicorn, then they will come and say ki ye 5 lakh ka 1 billion hua, tumhara usme kya aaya? What did you get? And let's set up an inquiry to figure out. So you do your damned if you don't do your damned. Which is why expecting bureaucrats to act as VCs, in my humble opinion, is not a great idea. Coming back to your point on AI, and this is a plug, I've written a piece which will come in Financial Express tomorrow. It's probably the first editorial piece in the world which is written half by a human and half by ChatGPT. And I've indicated the places which have been written by ChatGPT, and I've indicated the places which I have written. It's called the magic of ChatGPT and e-governance. But ChatGPT is also getting weaponized now. ChatGPT can be used to spread misinformation. You can feed it, it says what is fed to it. So if you feed misinformation, especially in a country like India, which is extremely complex, setting off something very, very volatile, using a machine is not very difficult to do. How do you, in that kind of a scenario, what do you think government should be doing? Should government think of regulating large language models, or should it allow it and allow solutions to emerge?
So what we need is a comprehensive, responsible AI framework for India. And responsible AI covers everything, including misuse. Right? So as part of NASSCOM, Fractal, IBM, Microsoft, Deloitte, and I think TCS, five companies came together to construct the responsible AI framework for India, which the government has already looked at. So I think having that or something like that as the responsible AI framework for India will begin to address issues that will come up like ChatGPT and others. There are many others that will come up sooner than later. But I think having a comprehensive responsible AI framework in India is the right solution.
Akrit, I know you are part of team. All of you are part of team which aspires to enhance the startup ecosystem of Mumbai. I wanted your thoughts on what team is about, number one. And number two, what can it do to catch up with the Silicon Valley of India like Bangalore?
Yeah, that's our plug. Recently a bunch of us came together, and quite ironically, all 4 of us over here are also part of this. We formed the Tech Entrepreneurs Association of Mumbai, or otherwise known as TEAM. As you can tell, entrepreneurs are not the best name keepers, but it works for now. The idea is, I think as founders who have built their companies in Mumbai,
Successfully.
The idea that what we saw over the last 3 to 5 years happening is that the next wave of startups is not necessarily considering Mumbai as the place of choice to build their businesses. Bangalore is definitely far ahead.
Thank you.
You are from Bangalore. Why did we ask him to do the panel? Okay, so Bangalore, of course, is the default choice, and for good reason. I think most of us also spend a lot of time there. But increasingly, the NCR area is also a very good choice. Hyderabad, Pune, Chennai, of course, especially for software companies. So a lot of us, and if you notice, the members of team are mostly founders who started their companies pre-2015. So most of us, found this city to be a great place to build our businesses. So the idea is, how do we bring that sort of technology entrepreneurship spirit back into the city? Our goals are primarily motivated from 3 different places. One is to pay it forward, which is that the city's given a lot to us. How do we give back and build entrepreneurship here? Second, of course, is selfish interest, right? We want to continue to establish our companies here, and we want to ensure that great talent comes over here. So that's sort of the second. And then the third is, I think some of us more so, some maybe lesser, do passionately feel that this is a great city for young founders and entrepreneurs. Like today morning, I was talking to somebody saying the same thing, that, Mumbai has been the original capital of business building of this country. All the original entrepreneurs of the 80s and 90s, this was the city where you came to kind of grow your business. So we think that, the same thing can happen with technology companies as well. Your question of how will we do it, that's work in progress. These are parts of, this panel or these discussions are part of it. And by the way, I don't think the intent is necessarily to, be somebody else or be a Silicon Valley or be a Bangalore. I think the intent is simply that, look, let's make Mumbai a great place to build tech companies.
Let me, Ashwin, coming to you. All of you guys are products of a time when capital was available very easily and free, almost free. US was almost a negative interest rate. I know startups, there's somebody who has set up a startup which teaches women how to wear saris and got $1 million funding. Okay, so money has been thrown around free for the last 5 to 6 years till Mr. Powell decided he wants to leave a legacy and has now started raising interest rates, and you're at about 4.5% today, and with more expected to come. I want your honest assessment. We've already seen data which comes every morning in Mint and Economic Times about how VC and PE funding is drying up, and drying up rapidly. How do you think this is going to affect the growth of the startup ecosystem in India? And is this a good thing? Because there are also many investors who I speak to who tell me, no, this is actually a good thing, because only when the waters have receded do you know who's naked. So, your thoughts?
First of all, I hope all of you don't believe that money has come to us easily. I don't think you believe that also. I can tell you when we started, for the first 7 years, we were self-funded, profitable. And the first time when we tried to raise capital, 20 odd VCs said no. In fact, that's probably the story of all of us here. I don't think anybody who just started a company and said, yes, I want money. Maybe that Sari startup is an exception, but I suspect they're not. They also would have gone through their rejection. So, but yes, last 2 years especially have been somewhat more easy. Partly it's the money that, there's excess money in the world economy. Partly also the India story. Partly the pandemic. And we can't forget that, especially if I take my line of operations, the fact that everybody was going online, including universities and schools, obviously built a narrative that, look, digital education providers like us, we have a story to play. But having said that, all of that has absolutely changed. I've been an entrepreneur since 2005. I think this is the third downturn that we see. And we forget, human memory is very short. We forget that 2008 there was a crisis, 2011, 12 something happened, and now of course 2023. I think it affects late stage companies more. Early stage companies where you're writing a $1 million, $5 million check, that is still very vibrant because there you will still make a 10x return, whatever. Late stage companies, which also again, mostly maybe people on this panel where you're already a unicorn, you're 3 billion, 5 billion, that gets affected. But Shivata, going back to the basic, I also believe some startups got a little carried away with growth, unit metrics suffered. So it's a good time for us to think about becoming more profitable and taking what I call profitable growth measures. And I think many, by the way, if we did a research at Team, where we, and this is aimed at you, we did a research at Team and we said, where are the number of more profitable startups, where are they based? Where do you think the maximum number of profitable startups are based? And then obviously it's not Bangalore, but it's Mumbai. And with that, I'll give the mic back to you.
No, not at all. It depends who did the survey. If you did the survey, obviously you're going to say it's Bombay. If we had done the survey, we would tell you it's not just Bangalore, but it is those 4 places of Bangalore where you guys feel there's traffic. And anyone who wants to complain about Bangalore traffic, meet me outside. 2 of the 4 panelists here showed up late here because they were caught in Mumbai traffic. So let's not talk about Bangalore traffic. The panel started a little late because of that. So anyway, I get your point, but I mean, obviously, Bangalore had a head start. Bangalore today contributes 40% of India's software export. We started off in the early 80s. That foundation was there, which is what enabled the startup revolution to start there. But there's no reason to claim that it will remain so forever. I'm sure Mumbai, NCR, as he mentioned, Hyderabad, are all creating different kind of clusters in different verticals.
I think the biggest challenge that we see in Mumbai is not talent generally. If you think about digital marketing, if you think about product, there's amazing talent here. It's technology talent. That is a challenge. And for some reason, the Googles, the Amazons, the SAPs, of course, Infosys, Wipro, all of them, they are majorly present in Bangalore, to some extent Hyderabad, little in Chennai, but not in Mumbai.
I like the some reason.
No, there are good reasons. And look, I'm very much happy Bangalore also does well. We're all Indians here. But for us, as we think about Mumbai, broadly more Maharashtra, specific to the team, what the goal of team is, we really have to think about how we can attract talent where, look, they may join a startup, but if they want to change a job, they want to go to Google, then they have to change cities. And so we have to think about it. And look, this will be a medium to long-term goal. But that's definitely something that we're seeing, that attracting tech talent to Mumbai is challenging.
Siddharth, coming to you, since you are in an area which is so core to government, which is healthcare, and especially the government is looking at expanding the India stack by adding the digital national health card, on which Sri R.S. Sharma and others have been working on, and I presume the rollout will happen over the next year or two. Today, the ratio of out-of-pocket expenditure on private healthcare versus public healthcare is exactly the opposite of what it is in developed countries. Do you think there is merit in that being reversed and we following a model like in the West? Or do you think the way we are going is the right way? And how do you expect at all out-of-pocket, I'm not talking about investments, I'm talking about out-of-pocket patient expenditure. How do you expect that to flow more towards government than what it is today? Because most of it is going actually towards the private sector.
So I fundamentally believe that ideally there should not be an out-of-pocket expenditure, right? I think the most evolved, or at least we as a country, if we have to evolve, we have to eliminate out-of-pocket expenditure, right? Today, because often, especially in the case of inpatient, which means when you get admitted to a hospital, if there is an out-of-pocket expenditure for a lower income family, it typically takes away several years worth of their savings, right? So I think I still believe that we don't need to emulate the West exactly. I think we have sufficient investors, sufficient private healthcare infrastructure in the country. I think the government has tried, like I said, to be the provider of healthcare and is moving now to the payer for healthcare. So I think the government being the payer, at least for, I would say, the bottom 50, 60, 70 crore Indians, and them getting access to services which are provided in a distributed manner by the private players.
But who will pay? See, I have studied and engaged very closely with the US healthcare insurance and healthcare. It's a supreme mess.
Absolutely.
It's an absolutely supreme mess. Believe me, I stayed there for 7 years. I had a serious, complex mother who was in and out of hospital all the time. And the US healthcare system is something which the world must not replicate anywhere under any circumstances except their emergency care, which is the best in the world. So
Absolutely,
how do you expect a country of 1.4 billion without insurance of the kind which is there to provide primary healthcare and tertiary healthcare to the masses who don't have the ability to pay?
No, so I think that is especially where the role of National Digital Health Mission actually comes into play, right? So it allows every Indian to have a digital health identity. It allows all players, right? So for example, we were the first players to integrate where all the medical records that are on the platform are interoperable and are aligned with a given healthcare standard. Now those healthcare records basically allows your digital identity, and depending on your socioeconomic status, or let's say the color of your ration card, etc., you get accessed into a program where it's almost like a health wallet. Right, saying that today for inpatient care, I have a 5 lakh rupee health wallet under the ABHM Ayushman Bharat health card. Similarly, I will have a certain limit saying that, okay, if I am diabetic, I can have 500 rupees a month to be spent on, let's say, buying insulins as an example, or buying these generic medicines. And I can actually go to any one of these, call it 1 lakh pharmacies as an example, which have the ability today. All of our pharmacies, I mean, every person today in India has the ability to accept payments on a QR code. So similarly, your health identity gets identified, it comes on a digital stack, and you have the ability where the government is paying for this. So you ideally don't need to be paying out of pocket. So even today, I can actually walk into a government hospital. Let's say if I want to go to KEM hospital or JJ hospital, I can go there. I can get subsidized healthcare, but I can't walk in today to a private hospital and get the same thing unless I want to get admitted. Right? But now when I extend this ability to a private institution, you have clinics, you have hospitals, you have pharmacies, and what will also start happening is, today a lot of people have to come from rural areas to district headquarters, or from district headquarters to the capital for some of these things. The moment people realize that I can get paid for giving these services in rural areas or district headquarters, private players will start identifying, okay, there is this population which today did not have ability to pay from their pocket and therefore had to come to a government institution. But now if the government is paying on their behalf without any leakage through a digital platform, then I may be able to go and actually provide a service or give healthcare over there, right? So I think we don't have to follow the American system where everything is government funded or everything is given through government sources and insurance has made it a complete mess. I think this digitization without loss of any leakage is perhaps the best system that we can today adopt in our country.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, sure. Then we'll open it up for question and answer.
So on healthcare, I have specifically 2 points I wanted to make. Number one is on what is the biggest healthcare issue of the country. India is the diabetes capital of the world. I think 1 in 6, I think, has diabetes or is likely to be diabetic soon. And given the general trust levels that Indian citizens have of the government, etc., I think you have a unique opportunity to work on preventive side of healthcare, which I think is not an opportunity that is there in other parts of the world. But just by diet, fitness, and exercise, if we can get our country to solve the problem of diabetes, I think that would be a great place to invest money. Insurance, yes, I get it, but I think preventive, I think much bigger. There are no incentives for preventive healthcare in other parts of the world. India can and should. 2 is infectious diseases like tuberculosis. I think we have called for TB Mukt Bharat, etc. I would say that it's a huge opportunity for India to solve for, because many millions of people, I think one person dies every 27 minutes of TB in India. So that is another place. So Fractal has a cure.ai platform, which currently 4 million people around the world, 40 lakh people around the world are getting diagnosed with the cure solution to detect for TB. But having a TB surveillance program, we run the TB surveillance program in Philippines, for example, where every time a mobile van goes around the country, collects the X-ray, and the person is put on a drug regimen immediately as soon as the X-ray is taken because of cure algorithms, cure.ai's algorithms. I think a similar solution, which India we have implemented, by the way, in a few aspirational districts like Baran, we implemented that for the government. Doing that across the country around infectious diseases, which still are an important part for India. These 2, I think, are big things that India should do on healthcare. That's my take.
Okay, we are down to the last 10-15 minutes, and I'd like to open it up for Q&A. I'd request people to come forward. The lady here at the mic, introduce yourself and please tell us who the question is directed to. Or she'll bring the mic to you. Yeah, on that table you have a few hands up.
Yeah, good morning. I'm Naveen Sona. I'm Secretary Public Health, Government of Maharashtra. Apologies. I had just entered just very briefly before the whole session, just as a kind of a response to the healthcare issues which I heard just now. I just wanted to. My question will be the second part, but I just wanted to share something what Government of Maharashtra is doing. Especially with the screening. So the preventive healthcare and aspect, of course, is very key, and there are health and wellness centers which have been, Maharashtra says number 1 in the country with more than close to 11,000 health and wellness centers where we have put contractual doctors to look at family-based healthcare, home visits, and that's especially regarding NCDs like diabetes and so on. But the very innovative thing which we have presented to Niti Aayog also is that, in fact, today at 3 p.m. we are launching the phase 2 of a program which screens the women from 18 years above. So we have, I'm glad to share that we have screened close to 4 crore women for diseases, and we have shortlisted them. So the question part of it is, a big challenge is the private and public interaction with things like tuberculosis and all. With the National Digital Health Mission, we see that it's interoperable and things may actually work out. What is the take on the panel? I mean, anyone could answer. How do you see the future of private integration? Private, when I mean, is like private service providers, doctors. If TB is detected, it's a notified disease. They should report to government, but is it really happening?
Who do you want to direct this question to?
I missed the introduction, so it's your call to direct. Thank you so much.
You want to take it? Or
so on TB, there's obviously a very successful central TB mission in India and so on. I believe that the key challenge that India has regards to healthcare is lack of doctors and radiologists. We don't have nearly sufficient number of them. So what we need is an intelligent combination of doctors and AI algorithms. So what we need is to screen and only get in the doctors when they are needed, right? So on top of the algorithms. For example, we ran a study. We ran a study which was actually run by Max Healthcare. So they did a study of where is the AI solutions on radiology vis-a-vis doctors, and we showed that actually AI algorithms today are at par or better than the best radiologists, and certainly better than the average radiologist in our country. So given that situation, I think the private partnership should possibly, the scope for that is to bring them in around the AI screening of the various diseases. We have the population, we have the diseases. What we need is some access to data sets. So private-public partnership could be such that here's all the data that exists. Can somebody come and work on the data and to create the algorithms so that we can do it? And I think China has done that very successfully, for example, in a much more nefarious use case of face recognition. But we can do those kind of use cases in healthcare, for example. That's where I think a great partnership can happen.
Shrikant mentioned about AI, doing the work of radiologists better than what an actual radiologist does. Let me share a paradox here. If you speak to people in the American Radiologists Association, today they say the AI can detect, they can look at the X-ray and give you a far better prediction than a human doctor can. But, there's a but, and the but is the enrollment for AI courses in America, not in India, is yet to go down. So it's yet to reflect in the productivity statistics of labor in America because of AI replacing radiologists, though AI is replacing radiologists. Siddharth, you have a thought on this question?
I think hello. So I think the other area where a lot of So another area where I think there is a lot of work that potentially is happening between the public and private sector is, I mean, just again looking at our example, right? I'll skip the part where private players can plug in and provide services or provide products, but also specifically on technology, areas like storing of medical health records, right? I mean, we had an example where, everything from, in fact, I will take the example of Maharashtra itself, right? When actually we were hit with COVID, the entire EMR system that was used in Kasturba was something that was provided by companies like ours. And I think there is a massive scope for us to digitize all of these health records, right? Because NDHM will provide an interoperable standard, right? It's almost like saying, okay, the government is going to do the job of UPI. I think there is a role for the Google Pay and the Phone Pay equivalent to actually go ahead and digitize the entire healthcare stack and the healthcare records, because that will start paying a massive dividend in terms of everything, right? I mean, your tracking models or your AI models or models on knowing what is happening is going to happen on the base of this basic data stack that is going to store these health records. And I think that's also a massive area of public-private partnership, because we potentially have to digitize health records of 120 crore Indians, which I think is a massive opportunity, right? Once you have the stack ready in between.
There's another question on that table. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm Dr. Abhishek Roy. I'm head SCMT West Bengal. So primarily with WhatsApp bot, we did a lot of things in West Bengal also. We started with this e-passes, and then migrant laborers management was a big hit. We started with a SMS-based solution also and WhatsApp bot also, assuming that migrant laborers might not have an access to WhatsApp bot. And in WhatsApp bot, we are asking more and more questions. Each and every details were being asked, where in SMS, because of limitation of characters, we're asking only limited things. But in spite of that, normally everyone is basically skeptical of giving data. In spite of that, most of the people opted for WhatsApp bot for this migrant labour.
What is your question?
I'm coming down to the question. So there are two parts of my questions. First is with respect to AI. So for this software as a medical device. So during those regime, we were approached by people who were giving AI solutions wherein we can detect COVID through this basically voice samples. But the problem was that no one was willing to take that risk. So the idea was to reduce the load on the RT, because RT-PCR kits were not available. The idea was that if we can screen the people and the system which says that you don't have COVID, they will be eliminated out and the load on RT-PCR will be reduced. And as a result, we will be able to, even if you are detected by the system that if you are having a COVID, you will be gone through RT-PCR as a gold test. But no one was willing to take in government. Everyone is skeptical at whether how success it will be, and there is no regulation with respect to software as a medical device. So this is number one question. Maybe Mr. Srikanth can address to this. Second thing is that with respect to this data, I was in Reliance Communications long back. Then SAS approached us, and they said that we will tell you that who all will churn out from your system. After a big exercise of 1.5 years, the output was that those people who have not done a recharge in last 6 months will churn out, or those people who have not done an outgoing call, they'll churn out. So as we discussed,
let me, in the interest of time, I'll request Akrit and Srikanth both to respond.
There's one more point here.
You have to open it out to a number of others.
Just a small thing. WhatsApp bot, we all are banking on WhatsApp, but WhatsApp is changing its entire paradigm. Initially it was given free to the state. Now they are changing the rates. And we don't know, even they are not giving a 3 years contract or 5 years contract. Suppose we bank on them, it will change the entire.
May I point out, he's not WhatsApp.
No, I know that. We are banking on WhatsApp.
I'm trying to understand the questions. The first part, I'll maybe let Srikanth answer whether AI can detect COVID or not. I think on the second piece, specifically on the analytics piece, I think there is now, compared to, let's say, at 15, 20 years back when you had the SAS approach you, I think compared to that, there are far better advanced tools now, which give you very high degree of prediction and accuracy in terms of what the customer lifetime value looks like. I think there is like 10, 15 very good options out there that you should definitely explore. And I'll address the WhatsApp point. I'm not a spokesperson for Meta and don't intend to ever be. But I think you should treat it like any other platform. One concern I would say with us becoming very dependent on the WhatsApp economy is, are we potentially exposing ourselves to another middleman foreign entity who's also going to then police and regulate, similar to, let's say, Google Play or Apple App Store?
Yeah, to the question on can AI detect COVID, yes. In fact, Cure.ai developed an algorithm in March of 2020, and even as early as late March of 2020, hospitals in Italy were starting to use it to detect COVID and also do a daily differential X-ray. So they would take an X-ray today, compare it with the one they took yesterday, and then they will see if the change has happened, if the consolidation in the lungs has changed. And based on that, and this, by the way, a human doctor it's very hard for them to see a change in one day of x-rays, but an algorithm can see the differences, and therefore they were using that algorithm to understand which patients are not going to make it and which patients will go into ICU, etc. And they were using planning their capacity with that. Even the hospitals in Mumbai used Cure's algorithms to detect COVID in a number of cases, and also to make the discharge decision. So you may still be RT-PCR positive, but if your lungs are clear because of an X-ray and the Cure algorithm says so, then you will be discharged from the hospital. This happened in early 2020. So yes.
How did the actual outcome match what Cure.ai detected?
Yeah, absolutely. Quite, yes.
Okay. The question back there. Two questions. Let's quickly introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Anurag Assaw from Gokli Institute, where the poverty calculation started way back 1971. I have a question with Mr. Ashwin regarding the privatization or education for profit. Country like India, where we have an example of ST buses, when it was some strike was going on at that time, the dropout score increased in Maharashtra. That is a situation where students are not able to go to school because ST buses were not available. For that they had to pay. Making those education level for profit, is it really reliable or it is required?
See, you're framing the question as either or, but that's never the intent. I'm saying let the government run the institutions, let the continuing institutions run as they are. Also allow private institutions to come as an option to the student. The student and their parents are intelligent, they will make appropriate choices. That's all. It's only an option to be allowed with the regulatory guardrails. For example, take the thing he's saying. He said, oh, the biggest problem in Indian healthcare is we need more doctors. Okay, how do you get more doctors? You need more medical colleges. How do you get more medical colleges? Have some more options. That's all I'm saying.
Good. Next question, please. Is gentleman at the back. Yeah.
Good morning to all of you. I'm Kartikeya Goyal from Chhattisgarh. My question is to the four of you. You mentioned that you were part of there's a group of startups, and you guys have something going on in Mumbai. My question more so is about whether there is any standard framework, a legal framework that you guys have evolved yourself, being an industry body or an emerging industry body, because most of us in the States have this issue. One, as Srivatsa said, that normally it's the big fours that we reach out to when we have to give any such work. So let us say, as in when we evolve to the stage where we have a framework where we can get startups like you, the issue will be though then the legal framework with which we engage you. And the point is that each of you have very different legal documents with which you come and sign agreements with us. And we then discover that there is a disparity between my state and another state in terms of what we have signed. So my only request is that can you consider doing something which is a standard as an industry standard for yourself, which then the state governments can, or even the central government, PSUs, etc., we can come onto the same page. So the gap is not too much between what one state and another has done in terms of engagement, data privacy concerns, and also in some cases source code access, etc., even after your term of engagement.
Let me have Akrit answer.
I think there are two parts to maybe the question. The first is that all of us as the association have structured it as a Section 8 non-profit, which is this association itself. So we are just a simple Section 8 non-profit that's looking to do this work. I think your part two was that across maybe these companies, or for that matter startups in general, is there some standardization on legal framework that you can engage with us? I think that is a lot harder because each company and their product in terms of what they do and their business model varies greatly. I think you have to also respect each company's business model and their legal framework. I'll give you a very small example. You said source code, you said cloud, all that. I know for a fact that there are companies whose business models allow for what we call on-prem hosting, where we can provide you the software in your servers. And there are companies whose business models don't allow for that, where we will only do it on cloud hosted. So just bringing consistency in this is not possible because these are legal is always very closely linked to commercial. And each company should have their own way in which they want to build their businesses.
Okay, Mrs. Sujata Sonik, our host for the conference.
Thank you very much.
Would you like to take this?
So thank you very much. It was really a pleasure to listen to all of you today. And I wanted specifically to tell you that there is scope for engagement with the Government of Maharashtra. Should you have anything that you would like to take up with any of the departments, my current portfolio is administrative reforms and office management. So if you come forth with something that you're really interested to do, then we'd be very happy to welcome that initiative. I wanted to tell you, Farmizi, Siddharth, that JJ School group of hospitals, they have over 1 crore of digital health records already. And they can be analyzed, and some of the things that you talked about, Cure AI, those algorithms can be run here. JJ group of hospitals is connected to 16 government hospitals. All the government hospitals are connected. So all those digital health records can be scanned and studied. We have a number of ITIs and polytechnics in our state, and we are struggling to create digital content. During the lockdown periods, we realized that we are not able to continue with teaching as it had been planned in the calendar, and that's something that we could work with you on. And anything else that you gentlemen want to really work, then please feel free to connect. And since this was a very candid session, let me also be candid and give you a little bit of feedback. So when Farmizi started, most of us have elderly parents and relatives in our families, and we have to take care of their health requirements. And I was ordering online a lot, and every time I placed an order, I found that there were a lot of calls going. You mentioned physicians; they started calling, members of my family, and they were inundated with these calls. And I had to actually reach out to Farmizi and say, "Please stop it."
Ma'am, he calls that customer focus.
Yeah. So I had to actually request that, these are elderly people, and you don't start telling them, they get confused. There's some other doctor they need to consult. So this is my candid feedback to you. And once again, thank you for being with us. And we look forward to having more engagement with you in the coming months.
Thank you so much. I'm grateful to the audience for this time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, everyone. Mic, please. Hello. Mic, please. Hello. Thank you so much, Dr. Srivatsa Krishna. Thanks a lot, Shrikantji, Ashwinji, Akritji, and Siddharthji. Thank you so much for sharing your experience and ideas. Now, may I call upon the stage CEO of Zilla Parishad, Ashima Mittalji.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and we'll have a photo. Okay, thank you. So we'll be starting. Thank you so much. It was an amazing session 1 of this day 1, and we'll be starting with session 2 immediately. Can we have the nameplates change on the stage? We have session 2. We have session 2, e-governance awarded initiatives. We'll be starting with the session 2 in just few moments. This session would be chaired by Dr. S.N. Tripathi, DG, Indian Institute of Public Administration, and would be joined by Shri Narasimha Komar, IPS Chairman Task Force on Vishwas and additional DG of Police Law and Order. We also have Shri Alok Premnagar, Joint Secretary, Mine Mitra, Directorate of Geology and Mining, Uttar Pradesh. And the light would be also thrown on e-Panchayat Mission Mode project. I invite the chairperson and the panelist on the stage. We have Shri Vipin Kumar, Special Secretary. Can we welcome the chairperson with a great round of applause? After working on many important positions in Government of India and Government of Odisha, now he is DG, Indian Institute of Public Administration. After joining IIPA, he has been instrumental in implementing e-Office at IIPA, especially during the difficult COVID time when face-to-face training was nil. He has worked relentlessly for reorienting Team IIPA towards digital and online training. Thank you so much, sir. Yeah. And we have with us today Shri Narasimha Komar, IPS Chairman Task Force on Vishwas and additional DG of Police Law and Order. Thank you so much, sir, for being here. We have Shri Alok Premnagar, Joint Secretary, Mine Mitra, Directorate of Geology and Mining, Uttar Pradesh. Thank you so much, sir. And we have Shri Vipin Kumar ji, Special Secretary. Thank you so much, sir. And now, to know more about e-governance awarded initiatives, I hand over the mic to the chairperson, Dr. S.N. Tripathi, DG IIPA. Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, friends. Let me thank Department of ARPG, Government of India and Government of Maharashtra for giving us an opportunity to be part of this great knowledge sharing event. Friends, you have just heard your Honorable Chief Minister who said 3 pillars of good governance are accessibility of services, availability of services and affordability of services. You also heard him saying that twin engine of good governance are whether these 2 engines work together to see that Indian Express train moves faster, where one chakka is headed by elected people's representative and the second one is by selected people's servant or the bureaucrats. Perhaps digital platform can make it happen. In the meantime, you also heard a session chaired by my good friend Sri Krishna Bhatts regarding what startups are doing. And the theme that he was proposing, and I also agree with it, should there be a government option to provide public service? We are heading towards that all the major services of the government or major services that government should or should not provide is likely to be provided by the private sector, maybe at a fee, maybe for profit, with profit, without profit, or in any case it will not be not for profit. Only thing with reasonable consent and purpose limitation. You have also heard some startups who are doing wonderful work. I think it was a music to the ears that our startups are doing so wonderful, so good, so well, that sooner the Mumbai will also provide a value for money and maybe a good competition to Silicon Valley of India, Bangalore. Friends, we are going to discuss 3 initiatives which has been done by government for the government. In fact, I must compliment the ARPG for documenting over 900 such good initiatives done by bureaucrats like you and me, which are successful in the field. There are a lot of lessons to be learned for each one of us, from each one of those presenters which are going to say so. They have been introduced to you, so I will not waste your time. Let me request Sri Nagarji to discuss about the e-Panchayat initiative. Honorable Chief Minister was saying that elected people's representative are the will of the people, the way it is reflected through the representative system, need to be respected. And in fact, if they are harvested properly, we can deliver public services much faster at much lower cost because they can bear the burden of awareness generation. On Panchayat Mission Mode project, which has become very successful and rewarded by the Digital India Government Award and many other initiatives that has been taken by the Ministry of Panchayati Raj, I think I will request Mr. Nagar to cover not only all that is being part of your PPT, but also what panchayats are doing exceedingly well, though they are not part of either startup as we discuss generally, or part of government as we are used to it, but they are becoming partners in delivering public services. We all know that Maharashtra is trying for 400 services to be delivered digitally. Karnataka has already achieved 850. Many states are trying all those things. But a time has come to find out, are there these services need to be provided at all? When we are talking about single sign-on, when we are asking for in-line to online, where we are saying that don't stand in queue, other QR code is good enough. Should we not reassess what are the services that need to be delivered? How much can be delivered through the panchayat itself so that all these, the bringing government and people closer, the initiative that what we are envisaging for the government in next 25 years, or what we call it Amrit Kal becoming Kartavya Path, all these issues will be discussed. Friends, we are proud of that government servants which are doing in field, and in spite of all the constraints that can ever be imagined, there are star performers. So a big round of applause for all those who are present here and all those who are going to be the next performer who will be rewarded by ARPG. First on e-Panchayat. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. The Ministry of Panchayati Raj came into being in the year 2004, so it's a very recent phenomenon, and it was a successor event to the coming of the... No, this is not it.
Kindly load Panchayat, e-Panchayat.
And the basic purpose was that we had to be in the business of this constant advocacy. There are 29 subjects that are devolved onto Gram Panchayat, which is part of the 11th schedule. I mean, after the morning's eclectic sessions, this one's going to be a little boring, but we in the government are accustomed to dull and boring. So we were dealt with a hand, our job being that of advocating, nudging, inducing, incentivizing that more and more of these 29 sectors should go to the local self-governments as far as possible. This is a vision statement that we gave ourselves that going forth, we would be making panchayats the hub of all activity, because whether we like it or not and whether we have the realization, panchayats are a tier of governance. So we in the government, whoever has been at the district level, we tend to take them as agents, as people who are implementing projects and who come and furnish utilization certificates, and then you give them the next tranche of funds. But it is a fact that they are here to govern, and the Constitution lays out the framework for that. So, next one. So the what started in 2014, which was a threefold increase in the Finance Commission grants that go to the panchayats as direct devolution. So 2.8% roughly of the allotable pool is sent to the panchayats directly. It has to bounce off the states. This is for those of you who don't know. But otherwise, in the 13th Finance Commission, that amount used to be 70,000 crores, and it all of a sudden became 2 lakh crores over the Finance Commission duration, that was from 14 to 19. Now, this money is not part of a scheme. If I have to administer a scheme, then I'm within my rights to impose any number of reporting formats. I can fix responsibility and so on and so forth. But here this was devolution, this was money that was going directly to the panchayats within 10 working days, it says, and then the panchayats were free to spend it in any way they liked, as long as they were concentrating on the mandate given to them in the constitution. So this fund, no, go back. So there are 278,000 local bodies, which is counting the traditional local bodies in the northeast, the PESA states wherever they've brought about the guidelines with regard to PESA. So all the, and of course there are the Gram Panchayats. With the 15th Finance Commission, the ambit is now extended to the block and Zilla Panchayats as well. So our job was to ensure transparency and accountability in the best possible manner and to help the panchayats achieve their aspirational objective, which was that of dividing the money between all sectors. One found that most of the spending was going towards road construction and civil work activities, and one had to bring about this change through nudges. Like I said, that this is not a scheme. In the 15th Finance Commission, of course, we had tied grants and untied. So while in the 14th panchayats were free to spend it any way they like, in the 15th Finance Commission, 60% of this got tied to drinking water and sanitation. So this was the job. Panchayats receive these funds, they plan for it, and then they spend it in the manner that they've planned, and the disbursements are made in the more transparent manner. Next one. And the mandate came from the Finance Commission itself that there has to be an audit conducted of these accounts. In the first year, 25% of the GPs. We exceeded that target. And of course, from the second year onwards, which is, this is the third year now, so we had to ensure that all panchayats got audited. Uploading of their panchayat plans in e-Gram Swaraj. What e-Gram Swaraj was slowly, I'll be talking about in the very next slide, and mandatory payments. Next one. So this is, this whole thing started from, I think, 2011-12 itself, when all these different PES applications were conceived and devised. So we had a planning module. We had implementation, monitoring, training, management, service plus, accounting and all that. But the thing was that one found that in their plans, in some states, the ones in the coast, you know, you had about 30 to 40% expenditure dedicated to roads and civil works. But then in mainland, you had sometimes 60 to 65% funds being allocated for these activities. So 29 sectors include women and child development, social welfare, education, and so on, natural resource management. But these sectors got no attention at all. And we had to nudge the panchayats into trying to do that. Next slide. This is just the problem statement that there was lack of centralized entries. All panchayats have to do it themselves. The people who are doing it in panchayats are the panchayat secretaries, who are of course educated and elected. They are government people, employees. And then there are the panchayat elected representatives, the pradhan, who could be literate, who could not be. So all these people had to be covered. There wasn't a work-based accounting, so what one planned for was not necessarily what one implemented. And there was lack of this data sharing, and there was no real-time tracking. So we, next one. So we just tied these things together. You know, we just strung them out. So whatever you plan for, only that can be implemented. You cannot have activities parachute into the accounting module without first having been planned and so on. Rest of it, and of course we made the financial module so that all payments had to be made through PFMS. It was a challenge in the first and second year when we were able to cover nearly 75% of our panchayats, but then from 21-22 it became a Ministry of Finance mandate, and the rest of it came much easier. But by this time we had already put into practice this learnings that we'd had from the initial mover states. Next slide. So for the plan, we do it over a concentrated campaign. We do it over 3 months. And then to make them evidence-based, the Rural Development Ministry, their officials, the community resource personnel, they carry out these surveys, which was every year until COVID happened. This year they are going to resume those surveys. In that survey, the gaps in respect of your 29 sectors can be analyzed. And for every activity that one is entering into your planning portal, there is a prompt that asks you whether you are addressing a gap or not, and if so, which gap it is. So like I said, it has to be nudges, you cannot tie them down. From the current year, there's something else that we are doing, that we've asked panchayats to choose a sankalp for themselves. Where do you see yourselves 3 years from now? Are you going to be a healthy panchayat? So there are 9 such themes which are like localized sustainable development goals. And subsequently, the activities that you put into your planning module are going to be linked to that. So you cannot say that you want to have a village where the women and children are secure and well educated, and yet you spend 80% of your funds doing roads. So there has to be a connect. This successful, the campaign, we've done it successfully for a number of years. Last year we did it for the first time using, including the traditional local bodies and block and zilla panchayats, and we had 90% plus plans being uploaded. Next slide. So the statistics are next one. All activities have to be geotagged. Unless they are geotagged, the payment voucher cannot be generated. This is something that happened over a 2-3 year period, so it's not some eureka moment that we chose. The request had come from Karnataka actually to begin with, that they want this mandate, and then subsequently it was extended to the entire country. Next one. So this integration was carried out, and currently we have 1,18,000 crore worth payments that have been made through the PFMS gateway by all the panchayats. I'm talking about 2,20,000 odd panchayats. Not all of them have onboarded. The ones in the northeast have connectivity issues. But all these people, there are no payments by checks. All payments are being made through the PFMS gateway. There are issues, of course. The government sites are among the most lousy ones, so we try and get into an improvement cycle. Even as we talk, we are having a series of workshops. The last one was in Hyderabad on Friday. There's another consultation on the 30th where we are engaging with groups of states and asking them about their issues, because the mandate was what helped us push it. But then going forward, people must find it useful, people must find it friendly, and so on. Next one. So these are the stats, like I said. Next. The success rate is of the order of 95%. There has been an adoption, mostly because it was coercive, but people have seen a value now. The states are interested, and depending on how user-friendly we can make it, for instance, whenever there is a drawl, the panchayat sarpanch gets an alert saying that this money has been paid off to such and such person. Whenever there is a digital signing certificate, panchayat leaders also had a propensity to share their digital signing certificates with their staff. So if some such thing is happening without their knowledge, and there is an app that is being devised through which they can go and approve a transaction. So these are things that we are doing concurrently. Next one. So Audit Online was also an application that existed. This makes it possible for there to be remote audited because all your accounts are online. So it becomes possible for a state to map groups of districts or groups of panchayats onto certain auditors. These people can either extract the entire accounts, or they can pick the account that they want, for instance, for the month of March or something. So they can get whatever bills they need, then they upload their objections. We've got as far as that. The next improvement that we have to do is we have to take it to the action taken report stage. Next one. Next, I've already spoken about this. So this is the Audit Online statistics. a lot of states have already onboarded themselves. There are a few, like for instance Telangana, who have their own systems, but they would be looking to replace that. I beg your pardon, Telangana became the first state in the country to have 100% audit of all their panchayats, even though the mandate was only for 25%, but most other states have also followed suit. Next. Next, these are things that are, everybody here would know about it. So this is the enhancements that we are planning. We are also looking to give the panchayats the option to order using government e-marketplace. I say an option, it is up to the state if they want to turn it into a mandate. But for that thing to leave a trace on e-Gram Swaraj, certain things have to be done, which are already underway. We hope to announce it on the 24th of April. And the planning module, like I said, we are engaging with the states in a group of 6 conferences, workshops that we are going to have all over the country. And by the time we are into the next Panchayat Raj Day, we would have come out with EGS 2.0, like we are calling it. So that is pretty much it, actually. Next slide. Go to the next one. Next, after thank you. So this is what I wanted to say when I was saying that our whole planning thing was off. Because most of the funds, you see the blues equal almost 50% because of the tide mandate. So this is from 19 onwards, but if you saw this kind of a curve, pie chart prior to 2019, it would be up to 75% only for roads. This is something that we were looking to correct, and we did it successfully. Thank you.
Thank you, Alok, for very comprehensive presentation. In fact, Maharashtra has already been leading in Jilla Parishad and using Panchayat as a vehicle of development. But now the competition is wide open, sir. Andhra Pradesh, I recently visited, one Panchayat has 10 officers posted in Panchayat, including Panchayat representative reporting to the Thana. Thana is reporting to the Gram Panchayat. 3 MBAs have been posted to Gram Panchayat. 1 MTech person was posted to a Gram Panchayat. So that is the strengthening of Gram Panchayat by government of Andhra Pradesh. Many more things are there. I think these are visible here. Maybe we also need a light version of e-office for all the Panchayat, so that their record keeping, Gram Sabha meetings and all those things could also be thought of. Panchayat is a vehicle of development. We will have some question maybe a little later. May I take the privilege of requesting Sri Narsingh to share about the good thing he has done. Trinetra is a very inspiring name of the project itself. Go ahead, sir. Trinetra PPT, kindly go ahead.
In the meantime, you load the presentation. Respected session chair, fellow speakers, senior officials of Government of India and Government of Maharashtra, many of them are joining online, virtually from all over the state. All the delegates who are present in this event. Greetings to you all. I will make a quick presentation on one of the technology projects of Government of Gujarat, and it is called Trinetra Integrated Command and Control Center. The presentation, essentially, I will just give you a rough idea as to what it is, and the lessons learned, and also some way forward for Gujarat and also for other states to follow. Next. You are aware that the CCTV cameras, body-worn cameras, drone cameras, and vehicle deck-mounted cameras, all kind of camera systems are available globally, and they have become very popular among the law enforcement agencies because they are extremely useful for traffic management, enforcement, investigation, and digital evidence to be produced in the court of law for the purpose of prosecution as well. So Gujarat had started the induction of these tools for enforcement purposes way back in 2014, and we had learned some lessons. We started with corporate funded project in Surat and another state funded pilot project in Ahmedabad, Gandhinagar and Baroda. To build on that, we decided to have three components: CCTV cameras, about 16,000 plus cameras as of today. Drone-based cameras, we have inducted about 15 of them in our fleet as of today, and another dozen are being inducted in a phased manner, and 10,000 body-worn cameras which have already been inducted and deployed all across the state. Next. So you are aware that somewhere in 2015 we came up with this smart city mission, and no city will be smart without safety and security of women, children, and the normal residents of the city. And no city can be smarter even without mobility, with the increasing population and vehicular population, as well as the normal resident population. And hence these are the two critical components for the state government to ensure if the cities are to become smart. Gujarat is third highest urbanized state, next only to Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra, and we have over 156 nagarpalikas. 8 of them are Mahanagarpalikas. So many of them are part of the smart city projects. So we started a project called Vishwas, covering Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities, essentially district headquarters, and also 6 tourist places like Dwarka, Palitana, and Somnath, which were attracting huge crowd all through the year because of the religious importance, and Statue of Unity, which has become a global destination for tourists. So we started with this Vishwas project covering 41 cities in the state. Next. The objective was basically road safety and making the street corners safe for women, children, and other vulnerable sections of the society. And then Trinetra in particular was an idea to integrate all the systems operating in silos. There are camera-based solutions under the Smart City mission. There are some cameras installed under various other projects as well. We wanted to bring all these camera-based enforcement systems under a common platform. So we integrated this body-worn cameras, CCTV cameras, and drone-based cameras for the purpose of law enforcement. We called it Trinetra for essentially 2 reasons. One, it is going to be the third eye of police. And these 3 additional eyes, which are essentially force multipliers for law enforcement agencies. So this Trinetra, which is centrally located, integrated command and control center in Gandhinagar, does this purpose of supervising all the 34 command and control centers located in 34 different districts. We had adopted a hybrid model, centralized database and monitoring, decentralized infrastructure for city and districts to manage at their own end, so that the ownership and utilization of the entire project is maximum. So this is an device which was created as part of the project. Next. It has these many components, as I told you: CCTV cameras, 7,000 under our own system, and another close to 10,000 cameras under other systems. And we have 34 command and control centers, as I told you, in all the districts. Then we inducted this body-worn cameras, which was new to the enforcement agencies in the country. And there are states who have inducted in small numbers, but to have these kind of cameras as an integrated solution, we were the first in the country to do that many number, 10,000. 1,000 of them are having capability to live telecast to the command and control center, and remaining are standalone cameras who can be docked to the docking station, and their video feeds can be extracted for the purpose of analysis and enforcement. So this the third component is drone-based system. These are micro drones. We are already inducting small drones with greater capability of 8 hours endurance, which can be made mobile on vehicles and things like that to cover and enhance our capability. And it has a live streaming feature as well. If a drone is being used for scanning a mining area to detect illegal mining, that can be live telecast on the command and control center. Additional features of video analytics, etc., that can also be added to the whole system to make it very, very efficient. Next. The architecture is, as I told you, it is a decentralized model. Body-worn cameras have been given to all the police stations. 625 plus police stations have been covered. and there is a workstation. So individual police station can manage their cameras, use them for analysis, for attendance, for tagging critical events and all that. And then we have command and control centers in 34 locations that connect all the CCTV, body-worn camera, and drone cameras. And then these are in turn connected with the Trinetra, which is located in Gandhinagar. Next. The key features are following. One is integration of multiple systems. That was a very, very important component. And technology adoption, mere camera installation doesn't help you. It has to be a complete end-to-end solution to make it useful for law enforcement purposes. So we have injected video analytics alongside to make it possible for the police to use it. Project governance in police, for that matter, in any governmental department, many of the departments operate in silos, and the decision-making process is complex one, especially for Home Department. We'll have to seek approval of Home Department and then Finance Department and getting approval, budgetary provisions. It's a complex issue. Here we opted for a innovation of creating a task force having multiple representatives from all the stakeholder departments, and this empowered team was able to take many of the decisions to push it and get it implemented in the state. Otherwise it was a difficult task. We have also done massive capacity building, because police is essentially based on numbers. We are lakh plus police force in the country, and we are accustomed to operating in groups, and many of our processes are manual, dispensing with lathi helmet and handcuffs and switching over to camera-based enforcement systems, which is basically non-intrusive, non-contact-based enforcement system, was a difficult task. So we have trained a large number of policemen. There were about 1,500 policemen with engineering, BSc, IT, MCA, BCA background, and they have been used efficiently. We have also inducted about 265 engineers on outsourcing contract basis. So they work alongside police to use our entire infrastructure and database for our advantage. We have developed a comprehensive standard operating procedure, because your old manual doesn't come to your rescue. It has to be a redefined, re-engineered processes. We have also integrated many other systems, like we had CCTNS in Gujarat, we call it eGuchcop. It is an application which seeks to capture all the activities of the police stations, subdivisions, districts, and state police headquarters. And it has a huge database from 2007, all the arrested persons, charge-sheeted cases, etc. We also have database of vehicle owners, the vehicles and things like that, advanced Sarathi with the Ministry of Road Transport, Government of India. All these databases and these systems have been integrated to make it an efficient solution. Next. Challenges were many, because when you install CCTV cameras in urban centers and street corners, there are many people who come into picture. Urban Development Department, Nagarpalikas, Panchayats, local bodies. You need electricity, you need road access through state highways, national highways, and multiple agencies come into fore. So picture coordination was a big challenge. And within the police force, actually, we are a user department, finding people with a technical background and pushing for implementation of these kind of technical projects was difficult. We had a state-owned PSU called GIL. We had roped in the agency as our consultant. We also took some people on a contract basis to manage our project. As I told you, our processes are reactive. So a proactive technology-based solution was difficult. So we had to opt for change management within the organization. That was another big challenge. Next. Most of the systems respond post-incident. So we wanted to make these video feeds, availability of live feeds for many of the prevention, detection, investigation, and prosecution of cases. Capacity building, as I told you, over a period of time, we have trained about 30,000 plus people to use body-worn cameras, CCTV cameras, and drone cameras, capable of handling them, using them for various activities. And performance management is another key issue, because Government of Gujarat has made 350 plus crore investment for these kind of systems. Unless we are able to deliver, convince them, and win their trust and confidence, we won't be able to take it to the next level. So we have made a concerted effort to basically evaluate ourselves and give feedback to government regarding how we have delivered. Next. The whole system is being developed and being used for multiple purposes. For police operations, as I told you, it has become a very, very important tool for prevention, detection, and investigation. Chunk of the cases today are investigated with the help of these tools. And citizen safety, as I told you, Gujarat is one of the states. Recently, even India Today survey found Gujarat as the #1 state when it comes to law and order. That is essentially because the street corners and the roads have become safer for women, children, and other vulnerable sections of the society. The road accidents have come down by 21%. Over 1,000 lives have been saved with the intervention of these kind of tools. I don't say this is the sole intervention. Better roads, safer automobile technology, and other things have also contributed. Mobility, as I told you, as one of the key component, we have been able to help substantially to improve urban mobility in the state. And the data is also being shared by other verticals for planning and policy making. Next. The way forward, essentially, the infusion of technology for law enforcement purposes is a complex issue. Just bringing in technology doesn't help you. We had something called CCTNS. It took over 1.5 decades to implement and see it through. Basically, it was targeted for police, and then we found that forensic science, prosecution, and then the jail system and the judiciary were also part of that. Taking them on board, integrating the system for better delivery was a huge challenge. Similarly, this outcome of these technology need not be immediate and very dramatic. Like body-worn cameras are having dual purpose. One, to keep tab on our own people regarding their corruption, high-handedness, misbehavior, and things like that, because that is often the allegation made against police. It is also intended to save them from potential hazards like assault, misbehavior by the general public as well. Unless we are able to communicate these things and make it useful for the policemen, the acceptability of the technology within the police force will be very, very difficult. Key is essentially to plan, train, and evaluate our performances constantly and fine-tune our systems and decision-making processes to make it more efficient. Next. The tips are basically the lessons out of this project because there are delegates from other states are the following. Technical infrastructure has to be dovetailed with other infrastructure. Like we brought in CCTV camera-based, drone-based, and body-worn camera-based solution, but urban development department, unless they focus on junction engineering, better roads, road signages, and things like that, and traffic signals, it doesn't work. So multiple systems will have to be brought in together. Here we made an effort in Gujarat. We came up with the CCTV camera-based and other camera-based solution. We also came up with drone usage policy. We came up with Public Safety Measures Enforcement Act 2022, which makes it mandatory for establishments having 1,000+ footfalls per day to go for CCTV camera-based access control measures to ensure safety in the public places like malls, cinema, multiplex halls, and things like that. We also brought in institutional arrangements like drone training schools, drone traffic police, etc., because that is the time Government of India came with drone rules 2021. So there has to be a holistic approach, otherwise standalone systems will not work. Integrating multiple systems, as I told you, there are any number of databases today which are having a law enforcement implications, and they need to be brought on a common platform. That there are huge challenges of doing that. The third is policy legislative framework. Unless we have a robust policy compliance in terms of specifications and things like that, hodgepodge approach will take us nowhere, because there were a large number of cameras in the system which are either having very, very poor quality, they cannot be used for investigative purposes, enforcement purposes, etc. Unless state comes up with a policy, which we did in Gujarat, it will be a difficult proposition to implement. Training and SOPs and change management is a huge challenge within the law enforcement agency. As I told you, we are dominated by constabulary, which is 80% of our manpower. They are 12 plus. We'll have to take them on board in terms of training and the skill development. But a whole of police approach, what you call whole of government approach to solution, is something that is needed in terms of recruitment, training content, and the processes. We had the police manual of 1970. We upgraded the whole thing. We have developed 4 different volumes, keeping the present day needs. Otherwise, the manual doesn't permit what is being used by these technological solutions, and that leads to a lot of confusion and chaos. And that kind of an approach will only take us forward. Next. The idea of creating Trinetra, integrating multiple enforcement solution, was basically to create a deterrence 4D approach, what we call in Homeland Security parlance, is creating delay, deterrence, detect, and basically create a security environment where the citizens feel secure and the criminals feel that there is no place to hide in the system, and if there is something that is happening, it will have to be caught. That is the kind of situation that has happened in many parts of Gujarat. There were episodes of repeated chain snatching, etc., in places like Patan, Surat, and things like that. They have, last 2 years, there are none of these episodes. That sends out a very strong signal to women when their chain is snatched or earrings are taken away. Their confidence is shaken in public places. These things can be extremely harmful from the security perspective. So camera system has delivered in Gujarat. Government of Gujarat has agreed to invest another 400 crores. We are taking these camera systems to 54 more cities. In fact, even cities like Surat and Vadodara are being taken on board, and we are going to smaller cities as well. And cameras are also being put in about 82 entry-exit points, and integrating it with toll plazas and other systems within the thing. And we have offered these solutions to Forest Department for anti-poaching operations, preventing smuggling and things like that, for Energy Department for scanning their power lines, Irrigation Department for Narmada Dam security and canal, lot of theft of water also happens. All those things can be prevented effectively. Mining Department for illegal mining operations. So multiple departments have also shown interest, and they are being taken on board to deliver a holistic or the integrated solution in terms of security and safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Narsinghaji. Nowhere to hide. No need to fear. There is a saying in government that हमारी फाइलें ढूंढते रह जाओगे, मिलेगी नहीं. And Gujarat ne, by using technology, they have said that nowhere to hide, no need to fear. In fact, they are saying that सीढ़ियाँ उन्हें मुबारक हों जिन्हें छत तक जाना है. सीढ़ियाँ उन्हें मुबारक हो जिन्हें छत तक जाना है. मेरी मंजिल तो आसमान है, हमें अपनी सीढ़ियाँ खुद बनाना है. दोस्तों, इसी मंजिल के साथ let me thank Narsim ji and invite another colleague of mine, Bipin Kumar ji, to share the Mine Mitra. He is going underground now. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. Respected session chair, my fellow speakers and officers. At the outset, I want to thank ARPG for giving us this opportunity and actually giving us the state of UP this opportunity of presenting this solution to you. Mine Mitra हमारे perspective से एक story है. It is not just about digital transformation, but it is a story of political will, policy reforms, coupled with digital interface ultimately leading to organizational transformation. So, when it comes to Mine Mitra, the most important thing for us was कि Mine Mitra लाने की ज़रूरत क्यों पड़ी. In fact, when I am talking about organizational transformation, तो ये ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन एक क्राइसिस की पूरी प्रोसेस के अंदर जाकर हुआ. यूपी इज नॉट अ वेरी मिनरल रिच स्टेट. मेजर मिनरल्स हमारे पास नहीं है, केवल माइनर मिनरल्स हमारे पास हैं. 95% ऑफ रेवेन्यू कम्स फ्रॉम माइनर मिनरल्स, जिसमें केवल 2 मेन हैं. वन इज सैंड, अनदर इज बोल्डर और कंस्ट्रक्शन एग्रीगेट्स. देयर वर अ लॉट ऑफ इश्यूज इन दीज टू माइनर मिनरल्स से रिलेटेड कई सारे इश्यूज थे दैट वर प्लेगिंग अस. In fact, at one point of time, in 2016, High Court actually stalled mining operations across UP. High Court ने कहा कि आप जब तक चीजें ठीक नहीं करोगे हम आपको operations करने ही नहीं देंगे. So there was a crisis, and that crisis ultimately led to a lot of steps. Some were initially the policy steps, ultimately digital transformation, and it ultimately led to transformation of the department, making it much more transparent and level playing. पहले हमारे यहाँ इंफॉर्मेशन एसिमेट्री बहुत थी, कुछ ही कोवर्ट इंटरेस्ट ग्रुप्स थे. वी कैन से 300-400 ग्रुप्स या फैमिलीज थे हु वर कंट्रोलिंग माइनिंग ऑफ द माइनर मिनरल्स. इंफॉर्मेशन के डेटाबेसेस स्कैटर्ड थे. डिस्ट्रिक्ट के थ्रू माइनिंग परमिट्स और लीजेस दी जाते थे, स्टेट लेवल से मॉनिटरिंग होती थी, बट देयर वाज नो सिंक विथ इट. इंटर स्टेट ट्रांजिट करके कई सारा माइनर मिनरल हमारे यहाँ पे आता था, बट देयर वाज नथिंग टू एक्चुअली वेरीफाई द डेटा विद देम. एंड इनफैक्ट एनफोर्समेंट जो था इट वाज आल्सो वेरी स्कैटर्ड बिकॉज वी हैव अ वेरी स्मॉल आई विल से मैन फोर्स इन माइनिंग डिपार्टमेंट इन यूपी. तो ये पॉसिबल ही नहीं था कि हम 24 आवर एनफोर्समेंट कर पाए. सो बिकॉज ऑफ ऑल दीज इशूज इट अल्टीमेटली बिकेम अ सूट. So our objective was actually to इन सारे जितने भी इश्यूज हैं इनको कर्व आउट करना था. So we actually started with changing the rules. We came out with new concession rules, changed the policy, like we went for the auction regime. और उसके साथ फिर हमने डिजिटल कई सारे इनिशिएटिव्स लिए. तो हमारे कई सारे स्टेक होल्डर्स हैं, जैसे वी हैव जनरल पब्लिक, उसको कई सारी माइनिंग सर्विसेज लगती हैं, उसको मिनरल मार्केट से खरीदना है. वी हैव ट्रांसपोर्टर्स, वी हैव स्टॉकिस्ट, एंड मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट वी हैव लेसीज. लेसी या जो परमिट होल्डर्स हैं. तो इन सारे लोगों के लिए हमें कोई सॉल्यूशंस डिजाइन करने थे. सो वी एक्चुअली डिवाइडेड आवर सॉल्यूशंस इनटू 4 ऑब्जेक्टिव्स. वन वाज माइनिंग ई सर्विसेज, सेकंड वाज ऑनलाइन मिनरल मैनेजमेंट, थर्ड वाज स्मार्ट एनफोर्समेंट सिस्टम्स, एंड लास्ट वाज अ सॉल्यूशन फॉर जनरल पब्लिक, यूपी मिनरल मार्ट. Anybody can actually buy a mineral, a construction aggregate through a portal like Amazon. ये इस अवधारणा के साथ हम चले and we came out with these solutions. Next. So when it comes to mining e-services, कई सारी mining e-services हैं. Permissions हमें कई सारी grant करनी होती हैं, like the basement. If we are digging up the basement, we have to give a permission. If somebody is retailing the mineral, they have to take a permission. कोई मिट्टी खोदना चाहता है, they also need a permission. So there were many permissions. There were also a process of giving a lease. उसको हमने auction पे किया. We went for a portal called MSTC, and we also integrated that portal with our systems. So auction भी, that also we did. Then, so all the e-services that are prevalent in the department where the public has a direct interface with us, we actually made them online. Online lease, online license, online permit, online permission. But more importantly, some of these services were made deemed approved. In the sense, for example, there is a farmer जिसको मिट्टी खोदनी है अपने खेत से, and it have to be used somewhere else. बहुत ही कम से मोस्टली दे हैव टू डू इट फॉर वेरी स्मॉल अमाउंट ऑफ मिट्टी, से 500 cubic meter. So till that limit it is auto deemed. They will just apply in 24 hours. If there is no adverse comment from the district mining officer, it will be approved, deemed. Similarly, if a retailer is there, he have to actually he is a retailer, he buys some minerals from the bigger players and actually retail them in the market. उनके लिए हमने ऑनलाइन रजिस्ट्रेशन का पोर्टल रखा. सो इन 24 आवर्स दे आर डीम्ड रजिस्टर्ड एंड एवरीथिंग इज विजिबल ऑन ऐप. सो इवन राइट नाउ इफ आई एम इन अ डिस्ट्रिक्ट, से आई एम इन कानपुर, सो आई कैन सी कि हमारे यहाँ पे कौन कौन से रिटेलर्स हैं जो एक्चुअली मिनरल बेच रहे हैं. So with these things, similarly, there was another part of public interface apart from the mining e-services was कि पब्लिक को एक इशू बहुत होता था. इफ दे हैव टू बाय अ मिनरल, दे एक्चुअली दे हैव टू गो टू अ ट्रांसपोर्टर. दे विल आस्क अ ट्रांसपोर्टर, देन ट्रांसपोर्टर विल कॉन्टेक्ट अ लीज होल्डर और अ स्टॉकिस्ट, एंड देन फ्रॉम देयर वहां से फिर उनका मिनरल आता था. सो वी एक्चुअली ट्वीक्ड इट. वी got everyone into one platform. It is called UP Mineral Mart. because at the back end all the leaseholders already their data, their lease management is with us. Every stockist, the stock they have, the kind of mineral they have, it is with us. Transporters, they are with us because in the next slide I will tell you, transporters हमारे साथ already they are registered because every vehicle that is carrying a mineral have to be RFID tagged in UP. Right now we have more than 1.5 lakh vehicles RFID tagged. We call it mine tag. It is almost like fast tag, but with that RFID tag we actually do the enforcement and also generate the transit passes. So we created a mart, mineral mart, where somebody can actually order a mineral. The prices are visible from his nearest mine, like the mine site or the stockist. The second thing is he can contact transporter. Almost 31,000 transporters are there. So on the same portal he will get both the benefits. He will also do the price discovery, comparing the prices of different leaseholders and stockists. So mining in e-services and UP Mineral Mart. These two were primarily targeted to general public. Next come the online mineral management. Next. Online mineral management is very important because there were a lot of issues earlier. First, once a lease is granted, a lot of issues are involved with it. They have to do an upfront payment. Then they have to pay the royalty in advance, or they have to actually submit a royalty on a monthly basis. So there were a lot of issues in the calculation of royalty, in the calculation of the money they have to pay, the money. Similarly, there were also issues. कितना मिनरल किस लीज होल्डर ने निकाला है. फॉर एवरी माइन वी हैव टू गिव अ क्वांटिटी कि आप 10,000, 20,000, 1 लाख क्यूबिक मीटर का आपके पास मिनरल रिजर्व है, तो इस साल में आप निकाल सकते हैं. एट वन टाइम आई एक्चुअली हैव टू नो कि कितना मिनरल उन्होंने निकाला है और उसके लिए कितनी रॉयल्टी पे की है. सो वी एक्चुअली मेड इट एवरीथिंग ऑनलाइन एंड इट वाज एक्चुअली पुट इनटू रूल्स कि जब आप ऑनलाइन जाएंगे तो हर माइन साइट पर आपको EMM11 ट्रांजिट पास जनरेशन के लिए कंप्यूटर लगाना होगा, वेब ब्रिज लगाना होगा. यू हैव टू एक्चुअली गेट अ PTZ कैमरा इंस्टॉल्ड देयर एंड गेट इट्स स्ट्रीमिंग इनटू द डायरेक्टरेट कंट्रोल रूम. दीज ऑल थिंग्स वर इंक्लूडेड इन द माइनर मिनरल कंसेशन रूल्स. सो बिकॉज ऑफ दैट द ऑनलाइन मिनरल मैनेजमेंट स्टार्टेड. So right now we are generating all kind of transit passes online. So the first, जैसे ही व्हीकल में मिनरल आता है उसके बाद इट हैव टू गो टू अ वेब ब्रिज. वेब ब्रिज में अगर वेब ब्रिज में जब व्हीकल आता है तो बिकॉज ऑफ द व्हीकल्स मेक उसके नंबर से इट इज डायरेक्टली कनेक्टेड टू वाहन. सो वाहन से हमें पता चल जाता है, आवर सिस्टम नोज कि ये जो व्हीकल है मिनरल कैरिंग है कि नहीं है. इफ इट इज मिनरल कैरिंग तो उसकी परमिसिबल लिमिट तक जब के अंदर वेब ब्रिज पे जब तक उसमें मिनरल रहता है तभी ट्रांजिट पास निकलता है. इफ इट इज ओवरलोडेड वहां पे उसका ट्रांजिट पास नहीं निकलेगा. एंड आफ्टर दैट द व्हीकल इट गेट्स अ ट्रांजिट पास, इट कैन गो अलोंग. और सिमिलरली फॉर अ स्टॉकिस्ट, किसी स्टॉकिस्ट में वी गिव स्टॉक फॉर सर्टेन क्वांटिटी ऑफ स्टॉक. सो देयर आल्सो वी हैव अ फॉर्म, अ ट्रांजिट पास कॉल्ड फॉर्म सी. सो दैट इज आल्सो देयर. फॉर्म सी की सहायता से वी आर एक्चुअली मॉनिटरिंग अवर स्टॉक्स डे एंड नाइट. थर्ड इज ISTP. Because UP is not a mineral rich state, even in case of minor minerals, and the surrounding states are there who actually dump a lot of minor mineral to us. So we have started, for giving a level playing field to our state, we started with ISTP, Interstate Transit Pass. We take actually a very small fee for every cubic meter or every ton of mineral entering into our state. So checking that was also a very big issue. So with a smart enforcement system and mineral management system, we are actually getting ISTP from these vehicles and getting them checked at the check gates. Third, next. The fourth and most important part of our scheme was smart enforcement systems. Actually, mining में हम सब कुछ कर लें, policy changes कर लें, उसके बाद इवन इफ वी डू ऑनलाइन मिनरल मैनेजमेंट, जब तक एनफोर्समेंट सिस्टम्स नहीं होंगे वी कैन नॉट प्रिवेंट अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स. सो वी केम आउट विथ 3-4 थिंग्स. द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग, दिस स्मार्ट एनफोर्समेंट सिस्टम was an integrated thing. It is like a check gate. We call it M check. Mining को check करने वाला check gate. And it is intelligent. It is based on artificial intelligence. Check gate में we have put a ANPR camera, automatic number plate read करने वाला camera है. There is an RFID reader which can actually detect in a moving vehicle कि कौन सा नंबर है. The second thing is अगर RFID है, माइन टैग है, तो इसका ट्रांजिट पास है या नहीं है. If the transit pass is there, it is valid or not. So these two things are sorted. Third thing, with AI, we actually started to gradually, our AI started recognizing the mineral. मिनरल के हिसाब से हमें पता चल जाता है कि राइट नाउ द मिनरल इज बोल्डर और मिनरल इज सैंड. तो वो भी हमारा कैमरा डिटेक्ट कर लेता है. एंड द लास्ट थिंग इज ओवरलोडिंग. इफ देयर इज ओवरलोडिंग, if the mineral is till the brim of the truck, or based on the different kind of trucks, like there are Hivas, there are body trucks, उनमें एक AI का हमने एल्गोरिदम लगा दिया है. तो एक लिमिट के बाद if they are still filled up, they will go in a separate category. Every check gate, we have right now 33 check gates, 7 more are under construction. They are actually covering our 7-8 district which are mining, they have a lot of mining, and they also have a lot of interstate movement of mining vehicles. So these check gates are covering them. Along with check gate, we have a small mini command center in the district with a decision support system. So check gate actually pictures it, creates an evidence, video evidence and photo evidence, send it to DSS, decision support system of the concerned district. The district actually issues the notices. So right now the notice time is just 24 hours. जैसे ही निकला वहां से तुरंत हम उसको नोटिस जारी कर देते हैं. आफ्टर द नोटिस इज जनरेटेड, नेक्स्ट टाइम व्हीकल पे ट्रांजिट पास तब तक जनरेट नहीं होता जब तक वो नोटिस का पैसा जमा नहीं कर देता. This is the key here. Because of that, right now with smart enforcement system and with just an investment of some 7 crore rupees, ये सारे करीब 40 गेट लगाने में हमें लगा है. We have हमने नोटिस इशू किए हैं almost 125 करोड़ के, and we have realized almost 90 crore till now. So because of that, this enforcement scenario actually totally got changed. Every mining officer in district have a handheld reader. It's a RFID reader. पहले क्या होता था, कई स्टेट्स में ऐसे इश्यूज आते हैं, इवन इन अवर स्टेट हम सामने जाते हैं एंड द व्हीकल इज, वो हमारे ऊपर ही न चढ़ जाए, वो हमें दौड़ा ना ले. All these issues were there. So we came out with handheld machines. These RFID readers are there. So apart from check gate, if our mining officer goes, he just puts his handheld reader in from the side of the road onto the vehicle that is going, and he will detect कि mine tag है, the mine tag is valid or not. And if something is there, he will just call another teammate, say 5-7 kilometers away, that you can actually catch him. We also have an integrated command center at the directorate level, at the state level. So we also analyze all these things, and we are actually giving continuous inputs to the district. So suppose if a truck without transit pass actually enters into our border, then we will call the officer of the concerned district or the next district to actually intercept it after 40-45 kilometers or something like that. So because of gradual artificial intelligence and gradual analytics that came with the inputs of our officers, the system become very robust when it comes to enforcement point of view. Next. These are our different check gates. So these check gates are already working. We have a third eye camera. So I am not showing it online. We can actually see these check gates working, the vehicle passing from there, and also the evidence right now. So suppose if the time is say 1:40 right now, I will get to know, I will get a pop-up in the command center that at 1:38 in district Sonbhadra at the Lodi gate, a vehicle passed without transit pass. So the pop-up notification will also go to the concerned district officer that you have to intercept it. Team here will also call him कि आप जाइए, और after 5-7 kilometers there are points where you can actually intercept him, and they can actually intercept him. This is mostly we intercept vehicle for only one reason, when they are repeat offenders. For one time offender we mostly never intercept the vehicle, क्योंकि अगर वो नेक्स्ट टाइम आएगा तो जब तक वो पैसे जमा नहीं करेगा, he will not give the penalty, the transit pass will not be issued. So because of that thing, a circular thing is there, and we are getting continuous revenue from the enforcement also. Next. So these are the figures, the kind of impact actually it has made. We almost have issued more than 2.5 CR transit passes from the mines of UP right now. And almost 6,000 crore of revenue is through this, actually flowed through this system. Then we have issued almost 20 lakh e-form Cs. E-form Cs are transit passes when mineral is going from a stock. Third is ISTP. ISTP is interstate transit pass. Its compliance was a very big headache for us, but with these check gates now we have actually generated almost 50 lakh ISTPs and revenue to the tune of 550 CR. And now because everything is online, so next slide. A lot of visible changes actually happened. The first and foremost important thing for us as a department is the change in the mindset of the people. Department को जिन चीज़ों के साथ relate किया जाता था यूपी में, it is now totally changed because all the mining services are online and some are deemed. So the total duration in the normal services that was 30 days, 45 days, it is now, in case of deemed, it is just 24 hours. In case of the services which are not deemed, it is mostly 7-8 days because we have a robust command center and we are continuously behind everything. Apart from this, because this sector itself needs a lot of collaboration, so this led to a lot of collaboration.
Another 2 minutes, huh?
Yes, sir. We collaborated with Vahan portal. We also collaborated with other states. अगर किसी vehicle से कोई vehicle किसी state से हमारे यहाँ पे vehicle आ रहा है, so we actually need their data. So through API we integrated other mining portals with us, and we can actually check, our checkgate can actually check कि उस state से अगर if the vehicle is coming from MP, the transit pass is valid or not. So the interstate collaboration is a very good thing that also came to us. And the last thing was interdepartmental collaboration. Like we also generate a lot of evidence. Smudged number plates ka we send it to transport department for enforcement. A lot of time police also uses our cameras for a lot of investigation or actually cracking a crime or something like that. So interdepartmental coordination also happened. So with all these things, Mine Mitra actually is in a nutshell, it is जैसा मैंने शुरू में कहा था, it is not a story of actually digitization. It's a story of organizational transformation. और उसके कारण we are getting a lot of revenue because of that. It can easily be replicated, and some 2-3 states are in the process of replication. We already have the meetings. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Bipin. If you solve a problem using technology, we can earn revenue also. कौन कहता है मिट्टी नहीं बिक सकती है, लोग मिट्टी इंटरनेट पे बेच रहे हैं, बालू इंटरनेट पे बेच रहे हैं. Lot of things to be learned. Friends, we wanted to have some Q&A, but I know there is a lunch time, and an angry mind is also a hungry mind. So we would not like to disturb, create the problem within you. But yes, one burning question if somebody wants to put, if we cannot control it even during lunch, that one question could be allowed, otherwise we can conclude. Yeah, go ahead. First table. Near the mic, near. Yeah. Kindly raise your hand.
Hello. Sir, my question to all of you is, because initiative is very good, मैं सिर्फ इतना जानना चाहता हूं कि पहले आपने पॉलिसी में रिफॉर्म लाया या टेक्नोलॉजी पहले लाया. बिकॉज अगर हम टेक्नोलॉजी पहले लाते हैं तो जो लेजिस्लेटिव है वो हमें रोक देता है. लेजिस्लेशन में हमें कई बार रुकना पड़ता है, जैसे कि सर ने कहा हमें मतलब CRPC भी देखना पड़ता, IPC भी देखना पड़ता और माइनिंग एक्ट भी देखना पड़ता जब हम इसको एक्टिवली करते हैं. और कोर्ट ऑफ लॉ में हमेशा ही जो है वो लेजिस्लेचर को ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंस दी जाती है देन दैट ऑफ ए टेक्नोलॉजी. एंड द सेकंड थिंग इज, एंड विच इज मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट, जो भी PPT हम यहाँ पे देख रहे हैं, क्या हमें ये अवेलेबल होगी? और अगर हम आपसे इसमें मदद चाहते हैं अपनी स्टेट में इसको इम्प्लीमेंट करने में, तो आप हमें कहाँ और कैसे मदद कर सकते हैं?
One voluntary disclosure, all the PPTs being presented in the conference hall. Conference will be made available to all the participants. I hope those who are concerned with this, we are taking care of it. Regarding the policy, first, our technology, second, there is one saying that लोहे का स्वाद आप कुम्हार से मत पूछो, लोहार से मत पूछो जो पीटता है, घोड़े से पूछो जिसके मुंह में वो लगाम बना के बेचता है. Time has come to evaluate this, who is the user of particular system, not who has developed it, or which technology, state-of-art technology has been used. I know my friends could have would like to make a comment, but since time is very limited, we would like to close at this level, and maybe if any doubt is there, you can meet during lunch time. दोस्तों, ये लोग ऐसे हैं जिन्होंने इतिहास बदला है. Despite all those procurement guidelines, they risked their job to take the risk, and they tried a particular product. My lesson from them is, and to all of you, is that you can still try something great and good. If it succeeds, credit goes to you. Even if you fail, at least there is one more way of doing it.
Yes, very well said.
And I would like to conclude with this, that जो पानी से नहाते हैं वो लिबास बदलते हैं, जो पसीने से नहाते हैं वो इतिहास बदलते हैं. ये लोग वो हैं जो इतिहास बदले हैं. But with this we go for lunch. Thank you.
So just
Thank
a
you
small
so much,
announcement,
sir.
dear participants. We will be
Hello,
sharing
hello.
all the PPTs by mail to you. Okay, by mail you will get, all of you will get the PPTs.
Thank you so much, sir. And now I request you all for a photo, and please accept a small gift. I invite Ashima ji, Ashima Mittal, CEO ZP Nasik, to felicitate the chairperson and the panelist. Ashima Mittal, CEO Zilla Parishad Nasik. Ashima ji, I also request you to join for the group photo.